Hello, this is your host, Adam Graham, from Pretty Much the Present. And in this video, we'll be bringing you a compilation of old-time radio detective podcasts from 2010. The podcasts are appearing, for the most part, unedited, except for some extraneous or repetitive elements that are being removed because this is a compilation. As I said, these are old, so any websites or offers mentioned may not be valid at the time you're listening unless you find them on our website currently. Now, with that said, here is a week of old-time radio detective podcast. Welcome to the Great Detectives of Old Time Radio. From Boise, Idaho, this is your host, Adam Graham. If you have a comment, email it to me, box13@greatdetectives.net. Cast your vote for the show on Podcast Alley, podcastalley.greatdetectives.net, and follow us over on Twitter at Radio Detectives. Well, last week we finished up Box 13, but as I alluded to, we're not quite done with Alan Ladd, and we're going to get into a performance he did on Screen Directors Playhouse in just a moment. Before we do get started, I do want to let you know about Netflix. With Netflix, you can view a world of entertainment, great classic movies, the latest hits, a wide variety of shows that are available for you to watch on your computer or through a device such as the Roku. Now, you can try Netflix out free, see if it'll work for you. Go to netflix.greatdetectives.net. Well, this particular show, Screen Directors Playhouse, you'll remember we played a couple episodes of the Screen Guild Theater for you. And this was kind of in that same vein, in the same vein of Lux Radio Theater, where they would take movies and they would adapt them to radio. And I have to say, this is one of the nicer sets in circulation. The entire Screen Directors Playhouse set with a lot of different movies done, including It's a Wonderful Life, The Killers, is at the Internet Archive, and the sound quality on these is remarkable. But this was over NBC. The movie they did is Chicago Deadline. And this is actually an out-of-print film. It's not available on home video, not available on DVD. And when I listened to it, I knew that I was going to do this after we finished Box 13, because it almost sounds like a prequel to Box 13, the way that Alan Ladd plays it. So I hope you truly enjoy today's episode. We're going to listen to Chicago Deadline.
RCA Victor, world leader in radio, first in recorded music, first in television, proudly presents
Screen Directors Playhouse, star Alan Ladd, production Chicago Deadline, director Lewis Allen.
The Hollywood Screen Directors present the transcribed journal of a phantom search. Tonight, for the first time on the air, the motion picture drama Chicago Deadline, starring Alan Ladd in his original role of Ed Adams. In the pale half-light of a hospital room, a man and woman stand beside a bed, watching the bright, restless eyes of Ed Adams and hearing his scattered words.
Rosita didn't have to die. I had to tell them. Make them understand. Rosita. Everything in the address book. Rosita. Didn't.
He's sick, Doctor. So sick.
Fever from the bullet wound.
It is a good hospital, isn't it?
Story.
You'll take care of him.
Of course.
Make them understand.
Miss Purdy, you said Mr. Adams is a reporter?
A reporter. Ed says they build him tough in Chicago.
Who's this Rosita? Is he
They
in
had
love with
to
her?
know.
In a way, I guess. He must have fallen in love with her. I don't know when. Last night, today.
We should find her.
I know where she is, Doctor.
Where?
The city morgue. She died yesterday morning.
Leona!
Yes, Ed. It's Leona.
I wanted to help her. I wanted to help Rosita.
Ed, you can't help her anymore.
Leona,
You have to sleep.
tired.
Sleep.
Sleep. Rosita. Listen, Rosita. You gave me a deadline until you were buried. I had till then to find out your story. To tell them the truth about you. And now they'll bury you tomorrow. I tried, Rosita. From the beginning, yesterday morning.
I run a straight hotel, Ed.
Maggie, I told you there's $10 in it if anything happens to your hotel. And you call me at the Chronicle before you call the cops.
Well, I did, Ed.
All right, here's your $10. Now, what's up?
Right in this room here. It's a girl. She's dead.
Yeah, what killed her?
Just up and died. Sick, Ed. TB.
Oh? I paid $10 to find out a girl died from TB in this flea trap?
What'd you expect, Ed? Lincoln's assassination?
Well, let's have a look at her. Why, she's just a kid.
Yeah, pretty kid, too.
Great way to check out, isn't it? What's her name, Maggie?
Oh, it's French or something. Rosita Jean Dur.
Rosita Jean Dieu. She have any baggage?
Yeah, those few things on the dresser, Ed.
The worldly possessions of Rosita Jean Dieu. Lipstick, nail file, address book. Names, phone numbers. Must be 100.
Did you find anything interesting?
It's hard to say, Maggie. Maybe I'll go back to the office and make about 50 phone calls and find out. Okay, Peg, I fixed it with the city desk.
Yeah?
You're working with me on the story.
What's the deal, Ed? All this fuss about an address book.
I borrowed it, Pig. From a sweet-faced kid named Rosita Jean Dieu. She died this morning.
So?
So a girl nobody knows conks off in a crummy hotel room. No friends, no relatives, just an address book full of names.
What names?
Read 'em. Solly Wellman, gangster. Blackie Franshaw, gangster. John Spingler, gangster.
So she knew people.
And that means that people knew her. But every time I ask about Rosita Jean Dieu, they get sudden attacks of galloping amnesia.
No kidding.
Listen in. Let's try this name, Gigi Temple.
Temple. He's a big wheel, Ed. President of the Iroquois Trust.
Hello?
Mr. Temple?
Yes.
Ed Adams, Chronicle.
How did you get my private number?
From Rosita Jean Dieu, just before she died this morning.
I never heard of her.
Oh? Funny, she had your private number, isn't
Mr. Adams, if the Chronicle connects my name with this woman, I'll sue the paper for every cent it has.
it? See, Pig? Just a girl nobody ever heard of. Let's try the next one.
Hello?
Tommy?
Yes?
This is a friend of Rosita's, Tommy.
Oh?
She died this morning. Hello? Tommy?
Yes.
I'm a newspaper man, Ed Adams. I was wondering, Tommy, could you identify the body for us?
Yes.
Can you make it at 8 o'clock tonight at the morgue?
Yes.
Tommy? Tommy? Well, at least somebody admits knowing her.
Some fun. Let's try again, huh?
Here's Belle Dorset listed at the Landor Arms.
Landor Arms?
Belle Dorset, please.
Hello.
Hello, Belle. This is a friend of Rosita's.
Rosita?
She just died, Belle.
I don't know her. I never heard of her. Let me alone.
Just a girl, Pig. And you bounce the corpse down the street, and suddenly you've got the place all to yourself.
What next, Strongheart?
Next? First, I want to call back the operator at the Landor and offer a fin to find out where Belle Dorset goes if she leaves the apartment house.
Gotcha.
And I'm going hunting with Rosita's address book until I find out why and how. I'm getting sore, Pig.
So you're the guy the newspaper phoned about.
That's right. What about Belle Dorset? Did she leave after that phone call?
Bag and baggage, son. No forwarding address.
Next in the book, Mr. John Spengler. You hear about Rosita?
What about her?
She's dead, Spengler. TB.
I don't know her. But I'll stake her to a funeral if you'll keep it quiet.
All right, Rosita. Let's try the next name in your address book. Let's try Leona Purdy.
Hi.
Leona Purdy?
Yeah, this is where the party is. Come on in.
Thanks.
Well, who's friend of you?
I'm a friend of Rosita's.
Who are you?
I'm a reporter, Ed Adams.
Want to tell me about it, Ed?
Want to tell me about Rosita?
Why?
She's dead.
Oh.
Talk, Leona?
Not now.
When?
Later. Don't look at me like that. I promise I won't make a pass at you.
My mother will be glad to know. Now, if you'll pardon me, baby, I'm going to go and cool off.
Where?
The city morgue. Is that her, Tommy?
Yes, that's her. That's Rosita.
Who was she?
My sister.
Tell me about her, Tommy.
She ran away when she was only 17. Married a fellow named Paul Jandeur.
Where is he now?
He was killed in an automobile accident 4 years ago, but she wasn't happy with him. She was terribly hurt by something that happened to their marriage.
And after he died?
Rosita came here to Chicago. She moved around a lot. But every year on my birthday, we had dinner.
Hey, Ed.
Yeah?
Pig's on the phone at the office holding a call for you on the board.
Okay. Hello?
Ed, I got Blackie Francho on the board. He called in. You remember him?
Yeah, sure. He's in Rosita's book. Big shot mobster about a year or so ago. We'll put him on, Pig.
Hello?
Hello, Blackie. This is Adams.
Hey, I want to tell you about Rosita.
Well, I'll be right over.
Hurry it up, Adams. Rosita. I loved her.
Blackie, who was it? Who shot you?
I just killed Blackie Francho. Adams, be smart. Leave it alone. Forget Rosita.
Ed, this is Peg at the office. Who was that guy?
How do I know? We just had a direct line to Blackie Francho's murder.
Why do you have to go and get himself killed off now?
Why? Because a girl died this morning. A girl nobody ever heard of. A girl named Rosita.
Listening to the Screen Directors Playhouse production of Chicago Deadline, starring Alan Ladd and presented by RCA Victor. If you're a typical American anywhere between the ages of 3 and 93, you'll have the time of your life the day you install your RCA Victor television set. When you go see the latest RCA Victor models, you're bound to be impressed by such imperial instruments as the TA-169. It brings you RCA Victor's supreme achievement in every field of electronic entertainment, all in one beautiful cabinet. AM and FM radio, a phonograph to play all 3 record speeds, plus 16-inch eyewitness television from every angle of finest television in the world. There are 2 record changers. The amazing RCA Victor 45 RPM 7-inch records have their own changer with all its added advantages and conveniences, and a second changer plays 78 and 33 1/3 RPM records. See the TA-169 at your RCA Victor dealers. It's 16-inch. It's an RCA Victor. It's every inch a king. And now back to the Screen Directors Playhouse production of Chicago Deadline, starring Alan Ladd in his original role of Ed Adams.
You see, I tried, Rosita. I found a few scraps of your life, bits and pieces, from the people who wouldn't talk and those who did. I found out that Blackie Franchot loved you. He told me as he died. I left the morgue, Rosita, and started for his apartment. I just stepped out of the cab, and then I found another piece of your life.
Adams?
Solly Wellman. I've been wondering when you'd turn up.
Get in the car. We can talk.
Won't that be nice?
Now, why would I turn up, Adams?
You left your calling card in Rosita Jean Dore's address book.
Too bad about Rosita.
Too bad about Blackie Franchot.
What happened to him?
An hilarious attack of murder. Solly, what did Rosita have to do with this?
Nothing.
I'll find out, Solly.
Look, Adams. Nobody likes to hurt reporters, but sometimes a wise guy brings it on himself. That's the end of our talk. Here's where you get out.
Maybe next time we talk, Wellman, I can make it more exciting.
I said get out.
Yeah. Thanks for the ride. Hello, Lyon.
Well, the man did come back.
On business.
At this time of night? Get out of my apartment.
Blackie Franchot was shot tonight.
Oh, Ed.
That means something, huh?
Ed, forget Rosita. You'll get into trouble.
I'm already in trouble. Where does Blackie fit in? How does it happen that a guy who loved her gets knocked off after she's dead?
I don't know, Ed. Rosita and I were roommates. Blackie Franchot was in the rackets, but a nice guy. He made a play for Rosita. Well, at first she didn't want any part of him. Then she began to trust him and like him and love him.
What happened?
Party one night. A lot of big shots were there.
Yeah, who?
A gilt-edged gunman named Solly Wellman.
We've met.
And a dollar-happy financier named G.G. Temple.
Of the Iroquois Trust. He's another guy who made Rosita's edition of Who's Who. And Rosita was at the party with Blackie?
They were dancing together. Then John came over and tapped Blackie on the shoulder.
John? John who?
John Spingler. He works for Solly Wellman.
Big-hearted Spingler. He wants to stake Rosita to a funeral.
He told Blackie that Solly Wellman wanted to see him.
Who was Solly with?
His girl, Belle Dorset.
Belle Dorset, sure. That must have been some party.
Why?
Because all those names turned up in Rosita's address book. They must have given her something to remember.
I guess they did. Because as soon as Blackie left her to talk to Solly, another man asked her to dance. It was G.G. Temple.
How big a play did he make?
Very big.
What about Blackie Franchot?
He was still number one with Rosita. Then she visited him one evening. She found him beaten to a pulp. Rosita took him out of town. He recovered, but his nerve was gone. He ran away.
And Rosita?
We lost each other. But I heard she was doing all right.
With G.G. Temple?
That's right. With G.G. Temple.
Strange kid. How does it all fit together, Lyon? She was tied in with Blackie, and Blackie's dead. She was tied in with Temple, and he's scared green. So is Solly Wellman. So is John Spengler. What's the connection?
Spengler worked for Wellman. That's all I know.
I wonder what Rosita was really like. Leon, I can't get her face out of my mind.
She was all right, Ed. Like a fine locomotive that hits the wrong switch and rides onto the wrong track.
Yeah. Who pulled the switch? Who let her die?
She was sick.
So that makes it all right, huh?
No, Ed.
No. Somebody was responsible. Somebody in that little address book of hers.
Where are you going?
Oh, I don't know. Walk, think, pull names out of a hat. It'll be morning soon. Maybe by then, maybe we'll be able to do something for Rosita. Good night, baby. Think it isn't working. None of it hangs together.
Boy, this Rosita was some doll. We had to bury her right here in the city room.
Now, don't be cute. Not now.
Okay. I'm still trying to track down Belle Dorset.
Stick with it, Pig. And check on John Spengler, the heart of gold who offered to bury Rosita.
Somebody else did, too, Ed. The Moore got an envelope with $500 in it.
Pig, I want you to arrange a funeral for me. Tomorrow morning, small and quiet and no circusing.
Right. Where are you going now?
I'm going to crash the private office of G.G. Temple.
I told you once, Adams, stay out of my hair.
All I want to do is thank you, Mr. Temple.
For what?
For $500 for Rosita's funeral.
I don't know what you're talking about.
You knew Blackie Francho, didn't you, Temple? And Solly Wellman and Belle Dorset and John Spengler. You were with them at the party where you met Rosita.
Now, see here,
Bad
Adams.
company for a big financial man like you, Temple. Do you want to hear more?
I do not.
You went crazy over Rosita. But she wouldn't have any part of you until Blackie Francho was mugged and run off. A guy named Solly Wellman did it. You work well together, don't you, Temple? You and Solly Wellman.
Get out of this office.
Sure. Kind of warm in here, isn't it? It'll get warmer, pal. Just for example, let's look at Rosita's address book. I think I'll pay a call on Mr. Hotspur Shaner. Then a woman named Hazel. Mean anything, Mr. Temple?
Mr. Adams, I can't believe that Rosita is dead. She was the finest young woman I've ever met.
How did you meet her?
My nephew brought her to the house, John Spengler.
Spengler?
Rosita left me about 4 months ago. Suddenly. I think she and my nephew had a spat of some kind.
Sit tight, Shaner. I'll get it. Hello?
Mr. Shaner?
Who's this?
The police, homicide. You got a nephew by the name of John Spengler?
What about him?
He was found shot to death in a ditch 1 hour ago.
Hazel, you say you were Rosita's maid.
She was a nice person, Mr. Adams.
Then why did you leave her?
I didn't exactly leave. She came home one night with Mr. Temple. They were quarreling. I heard her scream and a kind of a thud. Then Mr. Temple came in, and he told me that Miss Rosita was going away, that she wouldn't need me no more.
Is that all you know, Hazel?
That's all I know.
Ed, boy, am I glad you phoned.
What's up, Pig?
We just got a police report. G.G. Temple has committed suicide. Blew his brains out.
Sure he would. All right, Pig, that clears up most of it. Have you got a line on Belle Dorset yet?
Well, I meant to tell you about that. She's staying at her mother's. Here's the address. 674 West Hartford.
Hello, Belle.
How did you find me? What do you want?
Some talk about Rosita?
I don't know anything.
I do. I know Solly killed Blackie Francho. Blackie hated Solly like death because of that beating, and I know Temple was financing Solly in the rackets.
I don't want to hear any more. I don't want to listen.
Blackie was afraid to move in on Solly Wellman because he thought they had Rosita. When he heard Rosita was dead, well, Solly knew it was either him or Blackie, and Solly got there first.
Go on, Adams. Keep talking. Right into the gun.
Solly Wellman. Tough Solly Wellman. Break a girl apart for $1.
How do you figure it?
G.G. Temple. When he had that fight with Rosita, he knocked her down. She was unconscious. But he was sap enough to think he'd killed her. And he called you, Sully. The only one who could get rid of the body for him.
You're making lots of noise.
But you found out Rosita was alive. You wanted her dead. Out of the way so you could shake down Gigi Temple. And you made a mistake, Sully. You gave her to John Spengler.
So?
Spengler didn't kill her. He liked her. So he took her to his uncle's place to hide out. Everything was fine until Spengler began getting amorous. He forced Rosita to run away. She was alone again now. Alone and beaten and ashamed. And she just gave up. She gave up and died. Solly, you killed Blackie out of fear, and you killed Spengler for double-crossing you. And you scared Gigi Temple into suicide. A triple play, Solly. Congratulations.
Not a triple play, Adams. 4-part harmony. And because you're so smart, you're the 4th part.
What about Belle here? Going to kill your girl, too, Solly? She knows now.
Solly?
Sure, maybe we can rig up something. Maybe the two of you together. You know, double shooting.
Solly!
You rotten gun-having... You asked for it, Adams.
Solly, turn around.
What?
You killed him.
He was going to kill me? Operator? Mr. Adams has been shot. Call an ambulance.
Now they'll know, Rosita. They'll know all of it. You'll be buried tomorrow, and maybe there'll be somebody to care. I'm sorry, Rosita. Truly sorry. But you were important. Everybody's important. Now they'll know, Rosita. They'll know all of your story.
Ed, you should be sleeping.
Hello, Leona.
Hello, Ed. You were restless, talking.
What about?
Rosita. Her story. What was it, Ed?
Just a story. Read it in the papers.
This is Jimmy Wallington speaking. You have just heard the last act of Chicago Deadline. Our star, Alan Ladd, and our guest screen director, Lewis Allen, will be with us in just a moment. Next Friday, the Screen Directors Playhouse is proud to present a performance by one of Hollywood's greatest actresses, the winner of this year's Academy Award. Our story is The Dark Mirror, and recreating her original role will be Olivia de Havilland, with screen director Robert Siodmak. Now, here to get us tonight's star, Alan Ladd. Alan, they really make it tough for you in some of your screen roles.
Well, how do you mean, Jimmy?
Well, first you meet the girl, then you lose the girl. I'd say that's really tough luck for charming guys like you and me, of course.
It certainly is, Jimmy. But, you know, in real life, I got the girl.
You certainly did, Alan. And lived happily ever after on that ranch of yours, with 4 handsome children.
And don't forget all the horses.
And a ranch house equipped with the world's finest automatic phonograph, an RCA Victor 45.
And a stable.
And a large library of the 45 records, which I'll bet includes everything on 4 feet, from Dennis Day's The Horse Told Me to Alan Jones' Donkey Serenade.
Well, you're right there, Jimmy. And some of my best friends are people, too. I've got 45 mutual tickets on thoroughbreds like Toscanini, Heifetz, Horowitz, the whole field. They pay off big when it comes to musical entertainment, and they don't take up much room in my stall.
Yes, Alan, as you well know, the 45-table phonograph itself is less than a foot square. A compact little beauty in dark maroon with golden trimming. And so lightweight you can carry it under one arm. And you can line up 150 of the 45 records on 1 foot of ordinary bookshelf.
150 to 1, Jimmy. Even kids will go for those odds.
Say, Alan, one of your boys is only 3, isn't he?
Yes, little David. He's still too small to lick his weight in lollipops, though.
Well, can he operate your 45 phonograph?
Like a breeze, Jimmy.
That ease of operation is one reason why the 45 is the fastest selling of all recorded music systems. And, of course, another reason is the price. The 45 phonograph, the one which all the lads are crazy about, costs as little as $29.95. The 45 automatic record changer can be had for $12.95. And prices on the records start as low as 46 cents plus tax. So see your RCA Victor dealer soon and set your home life to the music of the 45.
Ladies and gentlemen, you might think that the appropriate director for Chicago Deadline would be a former newspaperman born in Chicago. You'd be wrong. He's a former merchant seaman born in England. And if you ask why he's appropriate, it's because the guy can do anything. Now I'd like you to meet him, the versatile director of such other pictures as The Uninvited, The Perfect Marriage, and So Evil My Love, Louis Allen.
Thank you, Alan. You know, with Chicago Deadline, I'm convinced I made motion picture history.
How, Lou?
I directed a film in which Alan Ladd didn't get the girl.
Well, you have to admit Rosita was a hard girl to strike up a conversation with.
On the other hand, Alan, as I listened to the show tonight, I thought she made the ideal leading lady.
Are you speaking as an actor or a director?
Oh, definitely as a director. In the first place, she showed absolutely no temperament.
An angel to work with.
Exactly. In the second place, we didn't have to pay her.
Financially sound. And in the third place?
In the third place, it was a pleasure to have no love scenes to direct.
Lou, you were speaking as a director. Now speak as an actor.
As an actor, I despise a director who gave me a leading lady like that. Good night, Alan.
Good night, Lou. And no hard feelings. Good night, everyone.
And good night to you, Alan Ladd and Louis Allen. Remember, next Friday, the two-time Academy Award winner Olivia de Havilland in The Dark Mirror with screen director Robert Siodmak, brought to you by RCA Victor, world leader in radio, first in recorded music, first in television. Part of $67 million is yours, not to receive, but to give. Your donation to the Red Cross will bring new health and hope to the sick, the disaster-stricken, the defenseless. All of us, every single person, can help through the American Red Cross. Chicago Deadline was presented through the courtesy of Paramount Pictures, whose latest release is Riding High, starring Bing Crosby. Alan Ladd will soon be seen in the Paramount picture Captain Carey, USA. Louis Allen's latest production for Paramount is United States Mail, also starring Alan Ladd. Chicago Deadline, from a novel by Tiffany Thayer, was adapted for radio by Richard Allen Simmons, and original music was composed and conducted by William Lava. Screen Directors Playhouse is produced by Howard Wiley, with dramatic direction by Bill Karn. Portions of this program were transcribed. You are invited to listen again next Friday when RCA Victor presents
Screen Directors Playhouse, star Olivia de Havilland, production The Dark Mirror, director Robert Siodmak.
Now hear Jimmy, the Great Rupert Durante, next on NBC.
Welcome back. Well, this was a great episode. Love, of course, whenever we're able to hear Raymond Burr make an appearance. But Ladd really and truly turned in a great performance. Plus, I thought that the overall tenor of what led to the mystery, it was just this very, I think, positive, life-affirming conclusion that comes directly out of it that you get from a lot of movies, but not necessarily from every radio show. So I love that. So I hope you enjoyed that. Next week we begin with The Thin Man. It's going to be a 1-hour episode the next 2 weeks, as we'll play the Lux Radio Theater presentation of 2 of the Thin Man stories. And then we will get into the Thin Man radio series. We have a comment from Jody who says, absolutely love the setup. Dan's position is more original than a regular detective for hire and more interesting than an investigative journalist. It's interesting how the emphasis of him being a writer seems to fade away in later episodes. I've only been listening for a few months, but I went back and listened to the first few episodes to catch up. In the beginning, Dan talked to himself, which was very irritating to me. Think, Holiday. What would one of your leading men do in this situation? I'm glad that the writer stayed away from that later on. I think maybe Susie was one of the reasons. She gave Dan someone to converse with besides the people involved with his cases. In my opinion, the problem with Susie is that she fits the ditzy sidekick role that so many women were in that area. Women always seem to be either secretaries or malicious femme fatales. That's one of the reasons why I've learned to love Let George Do It. Brooksie breaks the mold and is a surprisingly strong character, even if she doesn't get a lot of airtime. Thanks for the great podcast. I'll miss Box 13, but look forward to the next show. Keep up the good work. Well, thanks a lot, Jody. I think that in one way, the premise for Box 13 borrowed from other media. I've mentioned before that that Box 13 itself had its roots in Tommy and Tuppence, the notion of putting an ad there asking for adventure. And the idea of the ditzy secretary, in some ways, it seemed to be copying Sam Spade, though I didn't think it worked out quite as well. I think there are quite a few, not as good as Brooksie, but pretty competent female assistants. There's Nick Carter's assistant Patsy, and Ellery Queen's assistant Nikki Porter. Both are pretty competent. Not quite the level of Brooksie, but not quite Effie from Sam Spade, though I think that was mostly for laughs. Richard comments, while I've grown to love Let George Do It the best, I do think Alan Ladd's voice gives the smoothest delivery on radio. On that, I definitely have to agree. It's a fantastic voice for radio. I'll miss hearing it every week. The good news is that I found quite a few Alan Ladd radio appearances where he will do shows like the Lux Radio Theater and Screen Directors Playhouse and Suspense. So we'll be able to hear him again every now and again. We'll work in a special. Well, this is the last episode of Jeff Regan we're going to play. Next week we will be bringing you Father Brown. But before we get into today's episode of Jeff Regan, I do want to let you know about the entertainment books. The entertainment books are great books of discounts on services that you already use, be it groceries or dry cleaning or eating out. It provides a wide variety of deals with local merchants in your area that like a chance to earn your business and so are making special offers. You can get the entertainment book with all of its discounts and also be able to take a look and see if the merchants in your area are going to be of interest to you, and you'll get good value for getting the book by going to entertainment.greatdetectives.net. Remember, all the certificates in there are good through November 1st. All right, well, let's go ahead and we'll get into today's episode of Jeff Regan, Gentlemen Prefer Horses.
My name's Regan. I work for Anthony J. Lyon, Detective Bureau. They call me the Lion's Eye. Sunday at 8:30, and CBS brings you Jeff Regan, Investigator, starring Frank Graham as Regan, with Frank Nelson as Anthony J. Lyon. So stand by for mystery, suspense, and adventure in tonight's transcribed story, Gentlemen Prefer Horses. Like they say in the racing form, it was a clear day, track fast, and a field of 7. Any way you looked at it, the smart money was on the Stevens entry, except for me. I had a hot tip from a guy named Crenshaw, a jockey who finished in a dead heat with a bullet. I walked into the Lyons' office that Tuesday afternoon.
His hands were folded across 200 pounds of chest, and he wasn't being too particular about the cigar ashes on his vest. It was an expensive cigar. Kind he lit up on his birthday, New Year's, and at funerals.
Well, come in, Jeffrey, my boy. This is a fine day, a very fine day.
Yeah, I can tell by the smell. $1 cigar?
50 center. They were out of my usual brand.
Ah, price of rope's gone up.
Who cares? Today we're living off the fat of the land. Today we're having champagne and caviar. Figuratively, of course.
Yeah, sounds like fancy figures. Who furnished them?
Who but our new client? Jeffrey, today you and I have the pleasure of serving a young man named Boots Crenshaw.
How's that again?
Boots Crenshaw.
I just wanted to be sure.
Oh, the name. It is a little odd. You see, Boots was quite a noted jockey several years ago. Retired, moved to Los Angeles. Now he needs our help.
How much?
$100 worth, coin of the realm. Oh, what a day.
$100 will buy a lot of help.
That's the beauty of it. He doesn't need a lot. It's so simple. We do practically nothing.
Yeah, I'll bet.
All you do is run down to his hotel and talk to him. The Francesca on East 8th Street. What he wants is so childishly simple, I won't even bore you with the details.
Look, General, if it's that simple, maybe you better hire somebody on day rates to handle it. I don't know a thing about horses.
Exactly. That's why you're ideal for the job.
Because I don't know anything about horses?
That's right. You see, Jeffrey, my boy, although Boots Crenshaw is an ex-jockey, he says there's only one thing in life he can't stand.
Don't tell me.
You guessed it, Jeffrey. Horses.
I should have seen it for an outside bet right there, but I played it for a sure thing. I drove down Main to 8th and East until I spotted the Francesca Hotel. 3 floors of cracked plaster and a fire escape. It was old when Santa Anita was an onion patch. I parked around the corner and went in. A desk clerk with empty eyes and no teeth gave me 307. I went up, tripped on a hole in the carpet, and knocked. 3 minutes later, the door opened wide enough for one eye to look out.
Yeah?
You Crenshaw?
Long shot.
Where's Crenshaw?
Want a tip?
I already lost. I'm looking for Boots Crenshaw.
Who?
I told you.
No, I mean, if Boots was in, who would I say wanted him?
Look, he sent for me.
Sure. Who?
Okay, I'm Regan.
Did he say Regan?
Yeah, Regan.
Oh, let him in. Come on in, Regan. I've been expecting you.
He wasn't.
Oh, Longshot? He's the cautious type. Ain't that right, Longshot?
Yeah, cautious.
Regan, Longshot, Regan.
Fine.
He's the guy they call the Lion's Eye. Have a chair, Regan, have a chair.
Chair.
Thanks. Well, the Lion tells me you got a problem.
Maybe yes, maybe no. That's what I hired you to find out.
Ah, you're the curious type, huh?
Well, it's maybe not that simple. How do you want me to give it to you?
You're calling it. Just line them up at the barrier.
Oh, you already know I'm an ex-jockey.
Yeah, Lyon said.
Well, then I'll start there. Up to 5 years ago, I was doing all right. I could boot 'em home with the best of 'em. Then one day at the fairgrounds, I took a spill. Bad. The doc salted it away for 6 months in the hospital and then ended up by telling me I don't ride no more. Well, that's tough on a guy who's been a jock all his life. Longshot will tell you, huh, Longshot?
Yeah, tough.
Anyhow, after I get out, I bum around the oil for a while, but my dough runs out. So, me and Longshot gets an idea.
Yeah, idea.
Know what the idea was, Regan?
No. What was the idea?
Simple. All me and Longshot knows is horses.
Horses.
So we decide to sell tips.
Great idea.
Oh, but that's not all there is to it. We sell special tips.
Yeah, special.
Yeah, $100 a throw. But get this. You get your money back if our pick don't come in.
You don't need any private eye.
No, it really works. The big spenders go for it. Oh, sure, we have to pay back a lot of times, but we got enough winners to keep going pretty well. Up to a couple of weeks ago.
When your horses stop coming in.
Oh, no, the horses do fine, but there's one spender, my number one customer. We depend on him. And poof, all of a sudden he disappears.
Yeah, poof.
Now you're beginning to talk my language.
Yeah.
I don't mean you, Longshot.
Oh, sorry.
So I look for the missing customers, that it, Boots?
Yeah, sure, that's it.
Mm-hmm. What do I do when I find him?
Just find out about him, you know, who he is.
Who he is?
Yeah.
You don't know who he is?
Oh, that's just it. He always sends a chauffeur in with it, though. A guy named Mike. Mike says the spender's name is McMillan.
Yeah, McMillan.
Yeah, but you don't believe it.
Oh, sure. Only he's a good customer, Regan. I don't want to lose him.
Maybe what you really want is the connection between this McMillan and the spill you took back at the fairgrounds.
Oh, there ain't no connection. I didn't say that. You get me all confused.
Me too.
You spent a half an hour giving me background that led to nothing. Now, there was a reason.
Oh, no.
Yeah, the whole thing hangs together like a string of Chinese firecrackers.
No, I'm giving it to you straight. You gotta believe me, Regan. You gotta.
Boots. My fee says I gotta find your man. But believe you? Nope. Nothing says I gotta do that. I got up and walked out, leaving Boots Crenshaw and his friend Longshot looking at each other like bewildered kids after an unloaded gun went off. Well, I had two things. A chauffeur named Mike and a spender who probably wasn't named McMillan. I headed down the stairs toward the postage stamp lobby. That's when something caught my eye. She was tall, slim, and blonde, but didn't come out of a bottle. She was looking at me, and for some reason, what she saw made her cry. Wait a minute. Wait.
What do you want?
Well, you were looking at me, remember?
Well, that's not true.
Well, then you need bifocals.
I thought you were someone else.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Well, your mistake. See you around.
Oh, Mr. Regan.
Wow. Now we're getting acquainted.
I was outside the door. I heard your name. I'm his wife.
Crenshaw's?
Yes. What does Boots want with you, Mr. Regan? What did he tell you?
Nothing.
But he must have told you something.
Well, only about McMillan.
McMillan?
You don't know McMillan?
No. Oh, Mr. Regan, Boots is in some kind of trouble. I've been scared stiff. If you know what it is.
I don't. But maybe you can help. Look, there's a bar across the street. I got a clean handkerchief. Let's talk. She didn't say anything, but I got the answer from her eyes. I held the door open for her, and we walked out onto the sidewalk. It was a cinch. Boots Crenshaw wasn't worth all those tears, but his wife kept on shedding him anyhow. At least until we got to the crosswalk at the corner. That's when something else happened. A baby blue convertible came cruising by, looking for a place to park. Chauffeur driven. It paused, then disappeared around the corner. The girl flinched. I had to choose between Mrs. Crenshaw or the convertible. The way she stared told me to choose the car. It took me 5 minutes and a walk around the block to locate it. The uniform and puttees were gone, so I slipped into the driver's seat. Blue and gold everywhere. Blue paint, blue upholstery. Gold steering wheel and knobs. I reached down for the registration. I didn't expect it to say McMillan. I didn't expect what I got either.
Save you the trouble, Peeper. It says Mike Johnson, 15 Windmill Road, Pacific Palisades.
I should have looked in the rear vision mirror. He was in the back.
So you like the car, huh?
It's nice.
Maybe you'd like to have one like it someday, huh?
I'll wait for the 51.
Oh, this one's nice. Notice the seats. Foam rubber, real leather.
I don't like the color.
Do 110 with no strain.
Yeah, well, I'll get out and you show me.
No. You better try driving it.
Too late. Some other day.
You ain't heard my sales pitch yet. Look in that rear vision mirror again.
That heater didn't come with it.
No. A gun is my sales persuader. Now, I think you do want to drive it after all, don't you, Peeper?
He moved up front beside me. I drove. He headed me out Lakewood Boulevard. It was dark before we passed the airplane plans. And then just when I decided I was going to end up off the end of some pier, he had me turn into the oil fields. He picked a side road that was just 2 tracks in the goo. Then the ride was over, and we pulled up in front of a backdrop of pumping oil wells.
Okay, Peeper, stop here and shut it off. Like I said, drives nice, huh?
Doesn't use this much oil.
No, none at all between changes. I made you come here just so as we can talk.
Sure. Story of your life, maybe.
Story? No, I'm just going to tell you one little thing, that's all. You want to guess?
Sure. You're going to tell me who pays you and what for.
You talk awful tough, awful long.
What's McMillan got on Boots Crenshaw?
Get out.
Why the build-up of the $100 tip?
I said get out!
Okay. Okay.
I'll walk a little ways. That's far enough. Wait a minute. Okay, Peeper.
How do I get it? In the back?
Told you I wanted to tell you just one thing, and here it is. Boots Crenshaw doesn't want your help. Lay off.
I waited for the shots. They didn't come. But by the time I turned around, the baby blue convertible had disappeared behind some pretty black oil wells. It took me an hour and a half to walk back to the boulevard and hitch a ride to my car. And it took another hour to buck the evening traffic out to Pacific Palisades. 15 Windmill Road was Spanish and set way back behind a mailbox with no name. But it could support a lot of $100 tips. I pushed the bell and tried to figure out what I'd say when someone answered. That turned out to be no problem.
Yes. Well, hello, stranger. Come in. Come in out of the fog.
She was small and compact and brunette. She wore black horn-rimmed glasses, but they didn't get in the way. You could say the same for the sweater she was wearing.
Well, I said come in.
Yeah, you did. Thanks.
Damp tonight. I don't like to keep people standing on the doorstep.
You're real thoughtful.
There's a warm fireplace in here. You'd like the fireplace.
Sure.
We can talk better in there. You do want to talk about something, I suppose.
Lead the way.
There. That's better, isn't it? My name's Gloria.
Mine's Regan.
What are you selling, Mr. Regan?
Cadillacs.
We already have two.
This one's baby blue.
Oh, you've met Mike.
I sure have.
Is he in trouble again?
I'll talk to his boss about that.
Mr. Stevens?
I was told it was McMillan.
No. There's nobody named McMillan here. This is the Stevens place.
Oh, who are you?
I told you.
No, I mean to the boss.
I'm a secretary. I take dictation.
Yeah.
What do you want, Mr. Regan?
I'll tell the boss.
You couldn't wait for him.
Oh? When's he due back?
What did you say?
That's no answer.
Okay. So he won't be back for several weeks. I thought...
You thought wrong, lady. This is business.
About that fireplace.
So long, lady.
Yeah. I'll tell Stevens you called.
By the time I got back out to my car, the fog was really thick. I drove and thought about that name, Stevens. I wasted some time finding a real estate office that was open late. The secretary was right. Stevens did own the house. I spent the drive downtown thinking the whole thing over. It was past 11 when I got back to the Francesca Hotel for another go at Boots Crenshaw. He was in bed, but he didn't get up to answer the door. He wouldn't be answering any more doors. He was sprawled across the covers, face up. In one hand, he had his riding silks I'd seen tacked up on the wall. But this time I really noticed them, the color. They were baby blue and gold.
This is CBS, and you are listening to Gentlemen Prefer Horses. Tonight's adventure with Jeff Regan, investigator.
It began when an ex-jockey who sold tips hired me to find out what happened to one of his best customers. He said the customer's name was McMillan, but a brunette secretary said it was Stevens. Wouldn't matter to the ex-jockey anymore. When I went back to his hotel to tell him, he was in bed. Not asleep. Dead. He was holding on to baby blue and gold shirt, the silks he'd worn in his last race. I called the police, and a tall, nervous lieutenant showed up.
Your name?
Regan.
His name?
Boots Crenshaw.
What's he to you?
A corpse.
Tell me.
Okay, he was a client. I'm with the Lyon agency. Here.
Jeff Regan. License. Uh-huh. Okay. He, didn't pay his fee?
Oh, you don't think I killed him?
Just thought I'd ask.
You got your answer.
You carry a gun?
Sometimes.
Uh-huh. I'll keep it for you.
I got a license for that.
Sure. Tell me more.
All right, he was an ex-jockey. He sold tips, hired me to find out why his best customer quit buying.
Customer's name?
McMillan, he said.
Find him?
No.
You're doing good.
The jockey had a partner. His name was Longshot Coy.
This even gets better, Regan. What else?
I met a fat guy in a blue and gold Cadillac. I met Crenshaw's wife. They didn't give me anything.
You travel fast.
I get paid for it.
Your story's lousy, Regan.
It's my story.
Okay, Ed, run him in.
Wait a minute.
Oh. Now there's more, huh?
No, look, I phoned you. Call Anthony J. Lyon, my boss. He'll check the story.
Okay, Gumshoe. We'll try that for a while. Stay close.
My gun.
Later. Maybe. Okay, Ed, let him go.
I headed outside for fresh air. But I didn't get far. A little guy buried in a big overcoat sidled up next to me.
Hey, Regan, I gotta talk to you. It's urgent.
It was Longshot Coy, somewhere underneath that upturned collar. He stuck with me. We turned down the block, away from the streetlights. Then he grabbed my arm.
Listen, Regan, I didn't kill Boots. I came in and found him that way, so help me. It was just a couple of minutes ago, maybe 15 or 20. The cops are going to make me the favorite, Regan. I'm not even an entry.
I'm listening.
I heard the shot. I was coming up the stairs. I heard it. One shot, then I found him dead.
Mm-hmm. See anything?
Whoever did it got away.
Well, why didn't you call the cops?
Me there practically when the shot was fired. The room clerk would tell him I'd gone up. I'd be a cinch to take the rap.
Well, the room clerk's going to tell him anyway.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
You didn't just stop me to feel sorry for yourself.
Oh, no, I guess not. Regan, listen, there's something screwy. Something that don't add up right.
The wife?
Yeah. How do you know?
What about her?
She and Boots, they fought.
When?
Back in Chicago yesterday, all the time.
Why?
The usual reason. Other day.
Boots like to play the field, huh?
He used to, but not lately. He loves Susan, his wife. He really loved her, Regan.
Mm-hmm. You think she's in it?
I don't know.
What about the fall?
Huh?
The fall. Fall Boots took back at the fairgrounds.
Oh, that.
Finish it.
We all make mistakes, Regan.
Mm-hmm. Boots threw that race, didn't he?
Well, I didn't say that.
With the dough, he and his wife left town, took a tour, finally wound up in L.A.
Boots was hurt bad, Regan.
Yeah, but that wasn't part of the fix.
I don't know.
You're leaving something out, Longshot.
I didn't kill him, honest, I didn't. What do I do, Regan?
Go back there and turn yourself in.
I take the rap. It'd be a cinch to photo finish with a gas chamber. I can't do that, Regan. I can't.
It's your choice.
Yeah, I guess it's my choice. I'll see you later, Regan. I gotta think.
Longshot Coy wandered off in a daze, and I headed back to the bar across from the Francesca Hotel. The phone booth was empty. I called my boss, Anthony J. Lyon, asked him to phone Chicago and dig up everything he could on Boots Crenshaw and Longshot Coy. And while he was at it, I told him to check on a man named Stevens. Well, the line was going to be busy for a while, so I pulled up a bar stool. Then it hit me. I'd counted in everybody but the fat guy in the blue and gold convertible. I headed for my car in a hurry. Only I was too late.
Get in, Regan. I've been waiting for you.
He was sitting hunched behind the wheel, watching the fog. The gun in his hand was big and steady.
You had to show up sooner or later.
Just like Crenshaw.
Get in. Regan, I warned you to keep out of this. I told you it was nothing but trouble. You see, I was right. Trouble for you. This time I brought my knuckles, Regan. No answer? Oh, ain't that a shame?
When I came out of it, there was me and more fog, and the guy with the brass knuckles was gone. I tried to shake out the fog and get up. On the third try, I made it. The street was empty, and when I got out, even the damp air smelled good. I made my way back into the bar and found the phone booth and a nickel. The Lion answered.
Regan, where have you been? It's been over an hour since you called.
What'd you find out, Lyon?
What did I find out, Jeffrey, my boy? I found out everything, but everything.
Okay, out with it.
Oh, you'll be proud of me for this. Proud indeed.
If we ever get to it.
Very well, Jeffrey. I found out Boots Crenshaw was injured on July 13th, 1946. Fairgrounds track, 7th race, 100,000 added. He was riding for...
The Stevens Stables.
Jeffrey, that's true. How did you know?
Go on.
The name of the horse was Jade Lady, the favorite, post position 2. Boots Crenshaw was...
Wearing blue and gold. Stables colors.
Jeffrey, you're absolutely psychic. Yeah, let me see, where was I? Oh, yes, the horse fell while pulling away as he came into the home stretch. He was racing on the rail. There were those who said Boots deliberately threw the race. However, the racing steward said it was an accident.
Don't stop.
Well, Boots was laid up in the Chicago hospital for some time. Eventually, he recovered, left the city with his wife. They traveled extensively and then came to Los Angeles. That's all, Jeffrey.
What did you get on Long Shot Coy?
No, very little. He was picked up a couple of times for bookmaking, otherwise a clean record.
That finish it?
Oh, wait, I almost forgot. There's one thing more. The police have located Susan Crenshaw, Boots' wife. They've arrested her on suspicion of the murder of her husband.
That really finishes it.
Jeffrey, what do you mean?
I mean, the guy we need is Stevens, the owner of Jade Lady. The horse Boots was riding when he took the fall.
You think he's behind this, Jeffrey?
Well, it makes sense that way. Boots louses up a $100,000 purse. The horse has to be destroyed. Stevens not only loses the race, but some people say Boots framed him.
Yes, I see what you mean.
So Stevens follows Boots to Los Angeles, sets up the contact, then settles the score.
Jeffrey?
Yeah?
I've got news for you, Jeffrey.
Okay, what news?
You're sure about Mr. Stevens?
Okay, so we're supposed to have left town. You know something different?
Oh, Mr. Stevens did leave town, Jeffrey, quite some time ago.
What are you getting at?
In fact, it's safe to say he is not coming back. You see, my boy, your number one suspect, Mr. Stevens, is dead. Good night, Jeffrey.
It had to be Stevens. It made sense with Stevens. The time, place, motive, everything. Even the blue and gold car fit with Boots Crenshaw's riding, only Stevens was dead. That fixed it. Somebody was running the Stevens stables, and that somebody was my answer. I headed the car out Sunset and didn't spare the horsepower. "25 minutes later, I pulled up in front of the place. The fog was thicker than the hair on a Russian wolfhound. I headed around toward the back of the house. I was almost on top of it when I saw it. The big baby blue convertible, white sidewalls and all, sitting in the driveway. From somewhere behind the car, somebody was coming to meet me. It didn't figure to be a welcoming committee, and the police still had my gun. Suddenly, that somebody was named Mike, and he was diving at me, only this time overhead, and I stayed that way. There was a gun in his hands that was pointing in my direction. Only I caught the barrel and bent it back, brought it down in his ear. He lay there, peaceful, a halo of fog in his head. I didn't wait, because a light flicked on back of the house, and I headed for it in a hurry. I stood looking inside. The room was big and rich-looking, and inside it there were people, 2 of them. Through the window I could see a small guy in an overcoat and a girl with a gun. I didn't wait for an invitation. Drop the gun, lady.
Not a chance, Regan.
The shot went high. I dove across the room toward her. Long shot was right behind me. On the next one, he was where he shouldn't have been. The bullet grazed his head, and he went down unconscious. By the time she could turn the gun on me, I was there first.
Regan, let go!
Like you said, lady, not a chance.
Regan, my wrist!
Now it's the other way, Gloria.
You haven't got anything on me.
A book full.
You can't prove...
Did you kill Boots? Easy. Everything fits you that fits Stevens.
What do you mean?
My answer came out, Mr. Stevens. I was looking for a man. Now, that was my mistake. Change it around, call the man Mrs. Stevens, and you come up with the same total.
Stevens is dead.
Sure, but you're the wife. You've been running the stables. You're Mrs. H.V. Stevens.
Okay. So what if I am?
The blue and gold convertible told me you were mixed up in this. Crenshaw's shirt was blue and gold. It spelled Fairgrounds, 7th race, a horse named Jade Lady.
He threw the race.
Yeah, sure. But that wasn't why you tailed him.
Yeah?
He ran out on you, lady. If you wanted to sew him up, you could have done it after the race. But you weren't interested in a dead horse. You were interested in a live jockey.
His wife. She took him away.
She had a lot of nerve.
He left Chicago with her. He left me with a hospital bill.
Like a woman scorned. So you caught up with him, tried to force him back. And when he stuck with a wife, you killed him. Longshot Coy was going to be next. You brought him out here to the house.
Yeah. Boots and I are two of a kind, Regan. Dirty little rat that could get me off. Never mind. Go on. Phone the police.
You know what? I will. You know, it looks like you're entered in a race for the gas chamber, sweetheart. And the way I figure it, you'll finish 5 lengths ahead. Well, the cops took it from there. Mike and his boss, Gloria Stevens, joined the paddy wagon set, and a young medic slapped some bandages on Longshot Coy's head. He was like new. Me? I watched the fog settle over the blue and gold convertible and drove home. The next afternoon, I dropped in on the Lyon. He didn't look so chipper. The cigar he was smoking was strictly 3 for a dime.
Oh, hello, Jeffrey.
Why the long face, General?
Hey, Jeffrey, I'm not going to hide it from you. When the truth is hidden, only the liar must suffer.
Are you okay?
Hey, Jeffrey. Jeffrey, my boy, I lied to you. I did not receive a $100 retainer from Boots Crenshaw.
What?
You see, Jeffrey, he had such an honest face, such an innocent look. Dirty crook.
You didn't.
Yes, Jeffrey, I did. Instead of taking the money, I let him talk me into taking a tip. Extra special tips, I believe he called it.
So you didn't collect a nickel?
No, I took the tip. After all, he guaranteed to pay me if I lost. How was I to know he was a cheat, a cad, a blackguard? Besides, it was sort of a hunch.
A hunch?
The horse, Autumn Frolic, reminded me of my youth.
How much did you bet?
$10 on the nose. Oh, why
David
did I...
Lyon, did you see the afternoon paper?
No, why?
First race, Del Mar. Winner, Autumn Frolic. Paid $21 for a $2 ticket.
What did you say, Jeffrey?
You won.
Jeffrey, we're rich. We're millionaires. We're in paradise.
Thanks to Boots Crenshaw.
Eh? Yes, of course. Oh, dear Boots, a fine young man, a good soul. Jeffrey, remind me to write a note of condolence to his mother.
Jeff Regan, Investigator, was written tonight by William Frug, directed by Sterling Tracy, and stars Frank Graham as Regan with Frank Nelson as Anthony J. Lyon. Original music is by Dick Arant. Jeff Regan, Investigator, is heard transcribed each week at the same time over CBS. Joe Walter speaking. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Welcome back. Well, a lot of horse racing lingo in there. And Regan just had to use some horse sense to solve the case. Okay, horrible pun, I know. This was actually the very last episode of Jeff Regan for a very sad reason, in that star Frank Graham actually took his own life the day that the next show was set to air. It was very tragic. Was a great, very and talented voice actor. I just found out that he did one of the big roles outside of the two main stars on Lum and Abner, Chester Locke, that he played the role of Diogenes Smith. So it was a very, very sad note on the show to end. And Dennis at the Digital Deli speculates that Jeff Regan could have continued on had that not have happened. But all right, we do have a comment regarding a previous week's Jeff Regan show. This one comes regarding A Fire for Romano. Kathleen writes, "What a powerful episode, a part of history I forget existed, still so contemporary. And that indeed that's one of the most power-packed detective shows you'll ever find, that particular episode of Jeff Regan. So, well, I'm glad you enjoyed it, and we'll be back. Jeffrey had an email into me asking, Audible is a great service. I've been a premium subscriber for almost a decade. History, politics, lifestyle, and mysteries are my favorites. On one of your latest podcasts, you mentioned a book enjoyed. Can't remember the title. Will you forward to me? Well, I certainly did. It was Made to Stick by Chip and Dan Heath. If you'd like to see what I've been talking about on the show for the past few months and what Jeffrey's talking about, be sure to check out Audible. You can get a free audiobook, and you get to try out the service free for 14 days. Go to audiblepodcast.com/oldtimeradio to start your free trial. All right, well, let's get into today's episode of Let George Do It, The Lady in Distress.
Standard of California, on behalf of independent Chevron gas stations and standard stations throughout the West, invites you to Let George Do It. Lady in Distress, another adventure of George Valentine.
Personal notice, danger's my stock and trade. If the odds against you are so great you know you're headed for a dead end, you got a job for me, George Valentine. Write full details.
Dear Mr. Valentine, what I'm up against is something you can't put in so many words. But you gotta believe me, it's got me scared out of my skin. I'm just another showgirl getting her first real break. But I'm afraid it's gonna be my neck. Maybe you can help me. But I've gotta
see you today. After that, it may be too late to do any good. Signed, Vivian Drake.
Yeah, that's my letter. But you're not Mr. Valentine.
I'm not even Mrs. Valentine. Yet.
But I don't understand.
Well, I'm Miss Brooks, his assistant. I make these lightning appearances when the great man is among the missing. I thought maybe I could help you.
What could you do? I gotta talk to him, and it's something that can't wait.
Well, Mr. Valentine's on a case that's taken him to Seattle. He'll probably be gone the whole weekend.
I guess that washes me up.
Just what did that letter of yours mean?
Well, you see, I happen to have a brother.
Well, you'd be surprised how many people do.
Yeah, but not a crazy kid brother like I got. He's got himself into a mess and me along with him.
Yes?
Well, I'm not a very good singer. Not too good a dancer either. As for looks...
You do. But where's the connection?
I'm coming to that. It was only my looks that got me a job in Julia's nightclub in Des Moines. It didn't matter whether I could sing or dance because it's really just a racketeer's joint with a floor show as a cover-up.
Mm-hmm. Well, what brings you here?
Yeah. Oh, that's the whole point. I don't understand it. I was off at the top spot in the show at the Peacock Lounge.
And you're not that good.
And something else. Julia, who runs the place in Des Moines, got a grand to see that I came here to take this job. Why? Can't you see? I'm being worked into some kind of a deal where I'm going to end up as a patsy. I know it, but there's nothing I can do.
Well, I'm sure you had occasion to say no before.
Yeah, lots of times, but not to a heel who can send my brother to jail. And I'm his payoff. It's as simple as that.
Well, I think I get the picture. Tell me, what do you know about your prospective employers at the Peacock Lounge?
Nothing yet. I've been sitting around trying to get up enough courage to go there and find out what they got lined up for me. I can't stall anymore. But my one hope is that Mr. Valentine might find out what this is all about.
Oh, come on, honey, that's not going to help a bit. Tell me, who operates the Peacock Lounge? Do they know you?
A couple of guys named Philip Geary and Glenn Cooley. They never laid eyes on me before. That's why I can't believe all this sudden interest in my talents.
Then I could waltz in there and they wouldn't know the difference. It'd be perfect. I don't have any talents either.
Would you? Oh, but you don't know what you're walking into. I can't let you.
Huh?
It was about time you came to the phone. Yeah, she fell for it. I did everything but sing Mother McCree. But the frame is on.
Pardon me, friend. Yeah, what's the matter? Do you feel well? In a few minutes, I have to get back on train. Get to Seattle. So do I, but it looks like you'd better stick here in Farmington, fella. See a doctor. As it is, you can hardly move. I know. Pain across my chest. It hits me like this sometimes. All I need is... Yeah, what? That drugstore across the tracks. Take this, please. Buy me a bottle of Alcoid. Always helps me. Well, yeah, sure, anything. But look, I don't want this train to pull out and leave me in this brig. It just takes a second. Believe me, you've got plenty of time. I know. Well, every drugstore carries it. Hurry, please. Okay. Better lean against this wall. Stay that way. I'll be right back. Look, Pop, I don't know how you spell it. I only know how to say it. Alcoid. Alcoid.
Yeah, so you said. Funny, never heard of it. You say your friend is ailing in the chest?
That's right.
Now, I could make up something with a little of that...
Yeah, hey, wait a minute. Wait a minute. There goes my train. Valentine, the Good Samaritan. Hey, station master.
Yes, sir?
When is there going to be another train out of here for Seattle?
8:10 in the morning.
Oh, great.
You want to know of a good hotel?
Hey, just a minute.
Yeah?
Do you remember a short, stocky guy leaning against the wall here, right here? He wasn't feeling so hot?
Sure, I noticed him, but I wouldn't say there was anything wrong with him.
What do you mean? Did you go over him with a stethoscope?
No, but you should have seen him streak after that train when it started to pull out.
Bradley speaking.
Hello, Lieutenant. This is Valentine.
Well. Say, pal, you better get down to town, and I mean pronto.
What are you talking about?
Well, I met your girlfriend. She's cutting capers out of school. She took some nightclub flush under her wing, a dame in a hotel on Marlborough Street.
Wait a minute. Let's have that again, Riley, and translate it as you go along.
Private investigators don't peach on their clients, Miss Brooks informed me, so I don't know the whole story.
Riley, will you get to the point?
Well, it seems that Miss Vivian Drake imagines she's in some kind of a mess, and the letter was urgent, and you were out of town, and there you are.
Yeah, here I am, planted in Farmington, population 2,814, and I mean planted.
Huh?
Yeah. Someone was anxious to get me out of town, and then they made sure I got stranded here.
Well, I'm working on a very interesting case, too. Would you like to hear about it?
Stop horsing around, will you, Riley? I was on my way to Seattle to meet a client. Well, I just called up, and there ain't no such person.
Okay, pal, let's play it straight. How do you figure it? You think Brooksie was sucked into some kind of a phony deal?
If I can find a cab in this place, I'll be back in town to find out for myself.
Could you tell me where I could find Mr. Geary or Mr. Cooley?
Sure, honey. That table on the side of the room.
Oh, gee, thanks.
Don't mention it, honey. You know, this is the funniest thing.
What's the matter? Is my slip showing?
I just heard what you said to the hat check girl.
Well, it wasn't supposed to be a secret.
I mean, I was sitting at that very same table. Then I went to the Potter room, and now I meet you going back to where I just came from. Imagine.
Yeah.
Oh, you picked the worst night if you want to see the boys. They're expecting someone, and they're going to be terribly busy.
Oh, well, don't fret yourself, honey. I think I'm the one the boys are expecting.
Vivian Drake? Oh, no, you couldn't be. Just couldn't be.
Well, of course, my birth certificate could be wrong, but
I'm Chicky Larson.
You want I should tear up telephone books and shower you with confetti?
But for a whole year, I danced right next to Vivian at the Empire Club in Kansas City.
Uh-oh.
When I heard the boys was going to give you the top spot in the show, I was so happy for you. And now you aren't you. Are you?
Now, look, listen to me, kid. Vivian's sick. She sent me to take her place. This is a big break for me. And I'll take care of Vivian, too. My real name is Mitzi Raymond.
Now, am I mixed up?
Well, the point is, we have to stick together. We're all showgirls, aren't we?
Yeah.
Well, what the boys don't know won't hurt them.
Well,
That's fine. I knew you'd see it my way.
Did you? Well, if you say so. I guess I do.
Hey, you certainly know how to pick 'em. How do you do it, man?
Let's say I have an eye for talent, Glenn, and you're the money man.
Oh, she's going to go over great in the show. One look at her and you can see that.
Could you gentlemen stop talking about me in the third person? Poor little me is right here with you, remember?
Smart as a whip, too.
Sure. You should hear Vivian sometimes, Glenn. She says things I don't even understand.
Chicky, darling, I'm very fond of you. Don't make me wonder why.
Huh?
Oh, Mr. Cooley.
Yes, dear?
May I make a suggestion?
Of course. Anything.
Well, why don't I sit on your lap now?
Oh!
You mustn't mind Glenn, Vivian. He just naturally admires talent, but he likes to do it up close.
As I remember, there was some mention of a job for me. When do I start?
Oh, we got a wonderful routine all set for you, honey, but we won't start working on the new show until next week.
But you got nothing to worry about. We rented an elegant suite for you at the Remington Arms, as of today.
And it's perfectly gorgeous. The dressing room has mirrors on the ceiling. I almost got a sprained neck.
I'm all for rounding up some of the crowd and going over there right now. A celebration in your honor, Vivian. Let the champagne flow.
Gee, the USS Vivian, about to be launched.
All right, Miss Drake, maybe it was a coincidence that your letter came in when I happened to be out of town. But don't you think it was sort of a dirty trick to play on another girl, letting her walk into a shuffle like that?
Brooke seemed to know what she was doing. And I didn't know where to turn.
Okay. You just stay put. I'll see what the score is with the Misters Geary and Cooley.
Oh, yeah. It can't miss. Famous last words. Come on, answer.
Never mind that.
Huh?
The call can wait until later.
Artie.
Quick, give me a hand with it.
Yeah.
Close the door.
Yeah. Boy, you're a lifesaver, Artie. You was headed for the Peacock Lounge.
I just got in on a plane. Lucky I ran into Valentine like that. There was nobody in the hall.
What'll we do with him?
He's got to stay put till this deal's over.
When's that gonna be? I'm getting the jitters.
It's on the griddle right this minute. We'll dump him in the closet and let him sleep through it. You heard me. Riley. Put Riley on the phone. What? Say that again. I'm not my usual bright self at the moment. All right. Let me have the number he left for me. What are you talking about, Riley? What happened to Brooksie? Well, you can speak freely. This is a private phone. Oh, you said that before you... All right. Remington Arms. That's me knocking on the door.
I'll have the fingerprints checked in a minute. What do you say, Doc? When did it happen? Please, Miss Brooks, please, try to control yourself, will you? You're not helping things any.
I am trying, Lieutenant.
May I come in?
Huh?
Just what's going on here?
George. Oh, George.
Oh, easy. Stop this, Angel. Hey, how am I going to sock somebody in the jaw if you hold me like this? Now, who's been pushing you around?
I don't know what happened, George. That's the way it was when I came to. I don't know whether I did it or not.
All right, shut up, Brooksie. You're not making sense. Come on, Riley, let's have it.
Well, the guy on the floor there with the letter opener in his back, that's Glenn Cooley.
Yeah?
Fingerprints belong to Miss Brooks, all right, Lieutenant.
Okay.
Well, I can skip that then, Valentine.
What's the rest of it?
Look, why don't you wait till she pulls herself together and let her tell you, huh?
I want it from you, Riley.
Okay. Well, there was a party here tonight. Everybody else left except Miss Brooks and Cooley. And there he is.
And I really don't know what happened.
Sorry, Valentine. The next edition hits the street at 6 o'clock. It's going to have to read, we're holding Miss Brooks on suspicion of murder.
We'll return to tonight's adventure of George Valentine in just a moment. Car owners, the big news of the month is the arrival of that new improved Chevron Supreme gasoline. If you haven't tried new Chevron Supreme, what a motoring thrill you've got ahead of you. For today's high-compression engines, you can't buy a better gasoline. It's specially blended to give your car faster starts, faster warm-ups, extra pep in traffic, ping-free power on hills. And it's a premium quality gasoline that's climate-tailored. In any of the West's temperature and altitude zones, you can count on new Chevron Supreme to get the best out of your car. So wherever you live, wherever you drive, try this new motoring thrill tomorrow. Get a tank full of new Chevron Supreme at an independent Chevron gas station or a standard station where they say and mean, we take better care of your car. And now back to tonight's adventure of George Valentine. You find yourself highballing to Seattle to service a client. En route, you discover your client is the figment of somebody else's imagination. And in your absence, Brooksie takes on a case of her own. One thing leads to another, as the saying goes, and presto, a tableau of Brooksie and a dead man, a former charged with murder. If you're as allergic to being taken for a knothead as George Valentine is, you perceive something like this.
If you don't sit on your emotions, Brooksie, I won't be able to help you. Now, come on, let me do the talking.
All right, George.
The reason you didn't know when the party broke up is that somebody slipped you a man-sized Mickey while you were making like Vivian Drake.
Then suddenly I didn't know where I was or what was going on.
Riley's going to put Geary, that chickie girl, and the others under the lamp the first thing in the morning and sweat them. But suppose they all tell the same story.
What story?
That Cooley had been making a play for you all evening, and you were straight-arming him.
But that's true.
Which makes it bad, Angel, bad. Because people being people, they'll think just one thing. When he hung around after everybody left, slapping his wrist wasn't enough, they'll think. You had to let him have it.
No. But I can't be sure. Not really sure. But, George, you don't think...
Brooksie, I'll let you stay right here for asking a question like that.
I'm not very smart, am I?
You just forget that in this combine, I'm vice president in charge of sticking his neck out. But let's look a few more of these unpleasant facts in the face. Vivian Drake's taken a powder if she hasn't been taken for a ride.
But, George...
And there's no such place as Julio's in Des Moines.
You don't have to say any more. In other words, they've got me right in the middle of the field for the crows to pick on.
Brooksie, I'm drawing you diagrams like this to make you understand this is no time to fold up.
You mean stop being feminine?
Uh-huh.
Okay. I'll start working on a beard right now.
Good girl. Now, let's see. It's almost 5 a.m. I'd better get busy because we got a date for lunch today.
Have we?
Yeah. And you're not going to be eating it off of a tin plate. Having fun?
Who are you?
My name's Valentine.
Valentine? I know you. You're a holiday. When everybody loves everybody else. Will you be my Valentine, Valentine?
You must have a pull around here, sister. A whole nightclub to yourself, 5:30 in the morning. Bar and all.
I'm Chicky Larson, fiancée of Mr. Philip Geary, I think.
Who gave you that shiner?
Mr. Philip Geary.
Where's he?
Back there in his office. How'd you get in here anyway?
I'm a second story man, sister. There's only one story here, so it was twice as easy.
Sure, that's right. I don't get it.
Why did Geary paste you in the eye, Chicky? What's he sore about?
A girl, Vivian Drake, who wasn't Vivian Drake because I know Vivian Drake. I didn't tell Phil that she was Vivian Drake at all.
Yeah?
And then she went and killed Mr. Cooley.
How do you know that?
Police called Phil and told him. We're all going to be questioned in the morning.
Oh.
I don't think my fiancé is a gentleman. I don't mind being socked in the eye. But do you know something? After the party, he wouldn't even take me home. He'd just shove me in a cab.
Oh, he's a real heel, Chickie. But let's make some more nice talk, huh? Did you notice whether Geary went back into the Remington Arms after he put you in a cab?
I didn't notice anything. I was too insulted. I didn't go home either. I came right here and waited for him. I guess I showed him.
Oh, now take it easy. It's not that bad, Chickie. Or is it? Why don't you tell me?
I bet Phil will never trust me again. After me not telling him about Vivian, I bet he'll even make me take out all the money he gave me to put in my safe deposit box.
Money? What money? How much?
$3,000. That's how much he trusts me. Hey, you try and get something out of me.
Oh, I wouldn't think of it, Chickie. I'm just trying to be your big brother.
I have a brother already. I don't like him either because he's a man. It's the girl who pays and pays.
Yeah, Chickie, that's
I
right.
just hope nothing happens to that nice Miss Brooks. That fat dodo coolie had it coming to him.
Well, I gotta talk to your fiancé. So you better get a piece of steak for that eye.
Oh, no. It'd probably be from a bull. That's the man cow, and I hate all men.
Who's that? What do you want?
I've been looking all over for you, Buster. I didn't think you'd be at your club this time of morning.
What I do or where I am is no business of yours, whoever you are. Now get out of here.
What are you doing, Geary? Straightening out your accounts after what happened to Cooley last night?
What?
You could have done this before, you know. As long as you decided to get the money partner out of the way. Now you won't have to explain about the 30 grand you gypped him out of, will you?
Even if you're a cop, I don't have to answer any questions. I've got a date with you in the morning, and I'll have my lawyer along with me.
No, Buster, I can't wait that long. Now, stay on your feet, Geary. I got no time to pick you up.
Leave me alone.
Now, listen, I'm Valentine. You arranged that Seattle junket, didn't you?
I never heard of you.
You had me slugged so I couldn't barge in on the little party you had all set to frame Miss Brooks.
You're crazy. Who is she? What are you talking about?
When the others left the Remington Arms, you stayed behind. Come on now, what's the fix? You're going to answer my questions if I have to stay here and change the shape of your face.
Valentine, what are you trying to do? I'm working my head off trying to help you and Brooksie, and you go and nearly massacre Geary. If I didn't know a few unsavory things about him, he could have you thrown in the clink for assault and battery.
There's more of the same for anyone else I think did this to Brooksie. Now, I want to see her.
Oh, just like that, huh? Oh, ye gods, man, how far out on a limb do you think I can go for you?
I want to see her, Riley.
I can't give you a visitor's pass to the city jail good for all hours of the day and night. Honestly, Okay, I know how you feel. I think I can swing it.
Oh, I'm sure one smart cookie, Angel. The one person I want to help, I can't.
Oh, you did what you could, darling.
Oh, yeah. The only way I know how, it seems, with my fists. I can't use my head. I can't think beyond Geary. Everything stops right there.
Now you'd better sit on your emotions.
But, Brooksie, I couldn't get a thing out of him. And when he gets ringed around with a lot of high-class legal talent, it's going to be even worse. It may take months to get hold of the so-called Vivian Drake. And in the meantime, you'll have to sit the whole thing out right here. If I can't do any better than this.
Well, it's not a bad cell. Southern exposure, the matron tells me.
Hey, what's that you're trying to hide there, Brooksie?
Oh, it's nothing, Jordan.
Yeah,
Nothing,
let me see. Oh, Brooksie.
I guess I'm just a ham at heart.
Why do you want to torture yourself like this?
Oh, I know I asked the matron to get me the newspaper. Didn't get much of a play, did I? Only page 2. George, why don't you go out and get some breakfast? And a little sleep wouldn't do you any harm either. I don't want to be a Pollyanna, but things will work out, and I'll put that paper down and listen to me.
Oh, no, but it's a wonderful paper, Angel.
What?
Yeah, beautiful, blessed paper. People don't realize the miracle of journalism, what you can learn by reading a daily newspaper intelligently, carefully.
Huh?
Yes, Angel, you're so right. I think I got something. Hey, jailer, turnkey, lover boy, let me out of here. What I'm trying to tell you, Geary, is that you're yellow.
Lieutenant, did you have me brought down here just so Valentine could tell me that?
Shut up and listen to him.
Gee, have I got a head? I had a little too much last night.
You'll live, Chickie. Geary, your scheme to get rid of Cooley was a thing of beauty. And in a way, it worked.
What do you mean, in a way? Cooley gets buried tomorrow.
Now get the picture. A showgirl from out of town who means nothing to anybody kills a notorious wolf. Chances are she'll get off on a plea of self-defense. And Geary is in the clear with everything he filched from his partner. Now, that was the plan.
How are you going to prove anything like that?
I'm not going to bother. Because the whole thing happens to be immaterial, irrelevant, and has nothing to do with the flowers that bloom in the spring, fella.
Get to the point, will you?
Not so loud, Lieutenant. My head.
What head?
You see, Geary, after all your masterminding, the human factor crept in. Yeah, you lost your nerve and couldn't kill Cooley.
Well, thank you. That leaves Miss Brooks on the spot, doesn't it?
What about that?
Let me go on with the character analysis. You're not only yellow, Geary, but you're a patsy. A fall guy. A grade A schnookle.
Now, wait a minute.
Somebody's making you jump through the hoop without you even knowing it. And using your own little maneuver to do it.
Oh, that takes real brains, friend.
Okay. Who is this genius?
Come on, Chickie. Stop holding your head and take a bow.
You talking to me, Mr. Valentine?
In person. You produced a Vivian Drake, all right, but you got a brighter notion.
Did I?
Why not get somebody like Miss Brooks to pose as Vivian Drake? Then when Cooley went to his reward, it wouldn't be just another one of those things. There'd be all that extra publicity. And I'd be more than a little interested. You know I couldn't rest till I traced it down to Geary.
Just a minute. Sure, then that $30,000 in your safe deposit box, Chickie, that would be yours for keeps.
You can hold that innocent stare, sister. But you were far from innocent when you decided to go through with it anyway when Geary lost his nerve. You sneaked back and did things with that letter opener.
Come on, Miss Larson. Say something.
5:30 this morning, when we were alone at the bar, you did everything to put me on the trail of Geary. But you also talked too much. You said, I just hope nothing happens to that nice Miss Brooks.
Well?
Chickie, you couldn't have known her name was Brooks. The first edition identifying her as such, the one I saw in her cell, didn't come out till 6 o'clock.
You gonna let that pass too, Miss Larson?
All right. Ever since I can remember, I've played the wide-eyed, simpering idiot to please men. This once I almost fooled all of you. And then I hate 'em.
Go on, Angel. Let's see what's in the morning mail.
Oh, George.
Yeah?
For a while, darling, would you mind opening the mail?
Oh.
Right now, wielding a letter opener. Well, I have a crazy fear I'll go off looking for another Vivian Drake.
Oh, how do you like that? Now, look, if you ever get into a jam like that again, Angel, I'm gonna... Well,
Yeah. Darling. Hand me the letter opener, boss. Where's that mail?
When you start out in your car tomorrow morning, remember there's a new motoring thrill available at your standard station or your independent Chevron gas station. It's that great new Chevron Supreme gasoline. For today's high-compression engines, you can't buy a better gasoline. Through constant research and road tests, new Chevron Supreme has been perfected to give your car its best performance. Faster starts, faster warm-ups, extra pep in traffic, and ping-free power on hills. This premium quality gasoline is climate-tailored, too. Wherever you live in the West, wherever you drive, new Chevron Supreme gets the best out of your car. Try it tomorrow. Ask for it at independent Chevron gas stations and at standard stations, where they say and mean, we take better care of your car. Next week, when we catch up with George Valentine, we'll find him and Brooksie in a deserted doctor's office.
Now, here's a book I'd like to curl up with. The Human Foot. Its Anatomy and Pathology. Darling, what are you doing? What are you scribbling?
Brooksie, I have just verified a universal truth.
Oh, goody.
Every cause has an effect, and by the same token, vice versa.
Oh, goody again.
Or in other words, anybody who gets poisoned twice ought to drop dead at least once.
Louvain?
Yeah, Angel. He may be a mental marvel, but I won't buy that he's also a medical freak.
Tonight's adventure of George Valentine has been brought to you by Standard of California on behalf of independent Chevron gas stations and Standard stations throughout the West. Robert Bailey is starred as George with Frances Robinson as Claire. Wally Mayer appears as Lieutenant Riley. Let George Do It is written by David Victor and Herbert Little, Jr. and directed by Don Clark. Also heard in the cast were Gene Bates as Vivian, Harry Bartell as Geary, Virginia Gregg as Chicky, Leo Clary as Cooley, and Joe Duvall as Artie. The music is composed and presented by Eddie Dunstetter. Your announcer, John Heaston. Listen again next week, same time, same station, to Let George Do It. This is the Mutual Don Lee Broadcasting System.
Welcome back. This was an incredibly well-done episode. I addressed last week that there were other competent female characters, but I continue to marvel at the level of development that they worked into this relationship between George and Brooksie. This one I thought was interesting in that it used some of the little vignettes when we got a picture of what's a couple of the bad guys were thinking, secondary characters, what they were doing. We actually got to hear that. They actually used it to build a mystery. And it's a tough skill to master because oftentimes when old-time radio mysteries, we hear some of what the villains are doing without the hero present, we kind of get perhaps sometimes too good of an idea of what's going on. We have a comment from Kathleen on the show we did a couple weeks ago, the host of Casa Diablo. This episode was incredible with the plot. I might even have to listen to it again and concentrate more. I do have to say that with some detective shows, and other old-time radio shows as well, you get more out of it if you are able to concentrate more. You lose something when you're multitasking. Have one comment on the app. I love the podcast that has expanded its range. I only wish they had a way to tell which episode had movies as an extra. If you can tell, how about an explanation? Well, thanks so much for the question. Regarding movies, the movies have always shown in the player as just another episode. The way the app works, it pops into your latest episode, and so all you have to do to find the latest movie is scroll down. And all of our videos are marked Video Theater. And then you go, then when you have the movie up and you play it, and it takes you back to your iPod after you finish watching it and you want to hear my commentary, then from where you play the movies, you just hit the extras button and you can play my commentary. This does also bring up something very conveniently. We're changing the way the app works for audio episodes. Those of you who've been following this before will remember we basically, up until now, we've attached the extras to an episode of the show, and you had to go into the show that had the extras attached, and there was an asterisk. But from here on out, it's just going to be another extra, and it will be announced pretty clearly. We did this with the Not Cap Yarns with Frank Graham, and this will be the case with all other episodes. It will just say, October app bonus or November app bonus, and that'll be the clue that you're getting that. And what you're going to be getting, of course, is our detective stars in other roles. And also, this also gives me a good opportunity to let you know what next month's movie is going to be. It's going to be Murder with Pictures, starring Lou Ayres, most famous for the Dr. Kildare movies. This one was from 1936, so before he became Dr. Kildare. Lou Ayres in Murder with Pictures. But that'll actually wrap it up for today. Before we get into today's episode of Sherlock Holmes, I do want to remind you to check out our entertainment book. Go to entertainment.greatdetectives.net. It is chock full of great discounts to a wide variety of local merchants in your area in more than 100 cities across the U.S. and in Canada as well. So encourage our listeners, particularly in Canada, to take a look at it. Well, let's go ahead and we're going to get into today's episode of Sherlock Holmes, The Missing Scientist.
Petri Wine brings you Basil Rathbone and Nigel Bruce in the new adventures of Sherlock Holmes. The Petri family, the family that took time to bring you good wine, invites you to listen to Dr. Watson tell us another exciting adventure he shared with his old friend, that master detective, Sherlock Holmes. And I'd like to ask you a short, simple question. Have you ever tried a glass of sherry before dinner? If you haven't, you'll never know what you're missing till you do. And make that sherry Petri California Sherry. Because Petri Sherry is the best beginning a good meal ever had. Just hold a glass of Petri Sherry to the light. Look at its wonderful, clear amber color. Now just get a whiff of that aroma. Bouquet, the experts call it. I'm telling you, you can just smell those big, luscious grapes. Now, best of all, taste your Petri Sherry. Sip it. Sip it slowly so you don't miss one single drop of this truly delicious wine. Yes, without a doubt, Petri Sherry is good wine. Oh, and incidentally, Petri makes two kinds of sherry. Regular sherry and Petri Pale Dry. Both are fine. And if you're not sure which you might like best, do what I do. Don't buy one, buy two. Try them both. And serve them proudly because the name Petri is the proudest name in the history of American wines. And now I'm sure our good friend and host, Dr. Watson, is waiting, so let's go in and join him. Good evening, Doctor.
Good evening, Mr. Bartell. Here, quiet with it. Down, Monty. Down there.
Dogs seem very chipper tonight.
Yes, tonight, yes, but they've been in disgrace most of the day, Mr. Bartell.
Oh? What have they been up to? After the seals again, Doctor?
No, my boy, this time it was chickens. They got into my neighbor's coop and had a delightful time. Fortunately, there were no casualties, but I'm afraid that my good neighbor policy has suffered a slight diplomatic strain. But you've come here to listen to Sherlock Holmes' adventures, not those of my dog, so draw up your usual chair and make yourself comfortable, and I'll get on with tonight's story.
Last week, Doctor, you told us it was a case in which Sherlock Holmes found the solution without ever meeting any of the suspects.
That's quite correct, Mr. Bartell. As remarkable as an exhibition of long-distance detection as I ever recall. But judge the story for yourself, my boy. It was in the autumn of 1903, and Sherlock Holmes was about to retire to his bee farm on the Sussex Downs. I must confess, Mr. Bartell, that my heart was heavy during those last few weeks we spent at Baker Street. I thought of the countless adventures that we'd shared together. I remembered those many evenings of quiet comradeship and companionship. A fire blazing away on the hearth as Holmes lay back in the shadows playing his beloved violin. And then, Mr. Bartell, as so often happened, there'd be a violent jangle on our doorbell, and some wretched soul in misery would be standing before us and pouring out his troubles. Suddenly the violin would be discarded, and Holmes the dreamer would become Holmes the man of action. Come, Watson, the game's afoot, he'd say. And in a few moments later, we'd be rattling off in a cab through the foggy, gaslit London streets.
Yes, Doctor, I can imagine it was pretty hard for you to leave Baker Street.
It was, Mr. Bartell.
However, as it transpired, there was one more adventure awaiting us before we left. A few days before the actual move, I persuaded Holmes to take an afternoon off from his packing and accompany me on a visit to the laboratory of an old friend of mine, a Professor Jean Boulin. He was an eminent French scientist engaged in very important work at the London University. Oh, by the way, this was at a period, Mr. Bartell, when radium was something extremely new and extremely rare. The university had just acquired a minute but invaluable portion of the element, and Professor Boulin was in charge of the research connected with it. I can remember the picture so well as Holmes stood in the laboratory talking with keen interest to the distinguished scientist.
Amazing, Professor Boulin. Quite amazing. Think that this tiny leaden vessel contains one of the most precious substances in the world.
Yes, Mr. Holmes. We have a great deal to thank Madame Curie for. This new element may force us entirely to revise our concepts of all physical structure.
Your research is a great responsibility, Boulin.
It is, Watson. Though I must confess that I wish the authorities here would give me a freer hand. I foresee such infinite possibilities in the use, particularly the medical use of radium. But my conservative superiors seem to regard it only as a toy, a scientific curiosity.
Limit your experiments accordingly, I suppose.
Exactly. I'm given no opportunity to do anything that's in the least radical.
Must be very disheartening. How can research ever get anywhere along those lines?
It is a great misfortune, Holmes, that you've determined to retire to your bee farm. This project we could use such an analytical mind as yours.
You flatter me, Professor.
How many assistants do you have working with you, Buller?
3, but none of them are very inspired, I'm afraid.
What?
My best assistant is a man named Barker. He's a little on the conservative side, too. But he is extremely adroit. The other 2, a young man called Taylor and the girl Gladys Hughes. They mean well. But gauche, I fear, is the only word to describe them.
Why do you laugh, Buller?
I was just amused to observe that in describing my assistants, I chanced to be literal as well as figurative. It's odd that random symbolism can sometime... but never mind that. You would like to see the rest of the laboratory?
Yes, indeed we would.
Thank you very
I
much.
have some extraordinarily interesting photographic plates that record the emanations of radium. They're over here. I think you will find them most fascinating.
Baker Street, particularly when our rooms are full of packing cases, seems rather drab after the scientific stimulations of Professor Boulin's laboratory, doesn't it, old chap?
Yes, it seemed drab even if we hadn't been to see him. I feel frightfully depressed, Holmes. I just don't know what I'm going to do without you.
Oh, you're still a young man, Watson, and a susceptible one. You'll marry again.
No, I won't.
Yes, you will, old chap. And you'll end up by being glad that your old roommate, your difficult, rather unsociable old roommate, is living in retirement on the Sussex Downs.
Rubbish. I shan't feel anything of the kind. In any case, I don't think you'll be able to stay in retirement for long. Your mind is much too alert to be satisfied by being a sort of midwife to a bunch of beastly bees.
Oh, dear Watson. I feel that you'll never eat honey again.
Yes, you can laugh, Holmes, but I could see how excited you were when Boulin suggested that you might help him with his radium experiment.
A flattering suggestion, I must admit, my dear fellow. Just the same, Oh, now, who the devil's that?
From the urgency of the tug on the bell pull, I'd say that it was a client.
And go and head him off, will you, old chap?
Yes, I'll do my best.
Oh, Watson, explain that I'm no longer in practice.
Too late, Holmes. He's brushed past Mrs. Hudson. Here he comes rushing up the stairs.
Oh, confound it.
I beg your pardon, sir,
You
but...
Mr. Sherlock Holmes?
No, I am not Sherlock.
Then you must be Mr. Holmes.
That is my name, sir. But may I ask what accounts for your rather whirlwind entrance? My housekeeper, Mrs. Hudson...
I haven't any time to consider etiquette. My sister Gladys Hughes has vanished. Vanished into thin air. You've got to find her for me, Mr. Holmes. I'll pay you any fee you name, but you've got to find her.
Mr. Hughes, I'm extremely sorry that your sister has vanished, but I'm afraid that I can do nothing to help you. I'm retiring. I'm giving up my practice.
If you won't help me, I'll go to someone who will.
That's exactly what I mean, sir. I suggest that you go to the police, or if you insist on a private investigator, I can strongly recommend Mr. Martin Hewitt. Yes. His address is 39 Pont Street, Knightsbridge.
Good day to you.
Good day, Mr. Hughes.
36 Pont Street, Knightsbridge. Mr. Martin.
Yes, I can understand his concern, but his manners leave a great deal to be desired.
Holmes. Gladys Hughes, his missing sister. That was the name of One of Professor Boulin's assistants, wasn't it?
True, old fellow, but it's probably only a coincidence.
What?
Both Christian and surnames are extremely common ones.
Well, I have a feeling that it may not be a coincidence.
Oh, come now, my dear fellow. Don't you try and embroil me in a fresh adventure. I've retired and I'm leaving for Sussex in a few days. And if any more clients come wrenching at my doorbell, I shall ignore them.
But, Mr. Holmes, you've got to help me. My son, Geoffrey Barker, has disappeared.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Barker, but I'm afraid I'm...
Holmes, Geoffrey Barker was the name of Professor Boulin's chief assistant.
Watson, please believe me when I say that I'm not to be inveigled into any further... Mrs. Taylor, I'm sorry, but I can't help you.
Oh, but Mr. Holmes, it's my husband. He's disappeared. We've only been married 3 months, and now... Oh, it's terrible. I've been so worried ever since he started to work on that strange new radium with Professor Jean Ballon.
Holmes, you can't pretend it's coincidence any longer. Gladys Hughes, Geoffrey Barker, and now Taylor. The 3 assistants of Professor Boulin.
I know it, Watson. Mrs. Taylor, the moving van will be here tomorrow to take my things to Sussex. I shall follow them immediately. I have retired, madam. Do you understand that? Retired.
Yes, another telegram for you, Holmes.
That'll be the 4th today. Why won't Scotland Yard leave me alone?
Well, it's a pretty strange business. 3 people engaged in research of this new element radium have all disappeared within 48 hours. Scotland Yard needs your help.
Let them earn their salaries, my dear Watson. I've helped them for the last time. Well, let's see how they've couched their latest effusion. Oh, this isn't from Scotland Yard. It's from my brother, Mycroft.
Mycroft? What's he going to say?
Listen to this. Now Professor Boulin has disappeared.
Great Scott.
And the radium with him. Surely the pattern is obvious, Sherlock. Radium must be found, could solve the problem for you, but I'm too lazy. Consider what a flashy case for you to retire on. Regards, Mycroft. The old devil.
Holmes, this is shocking. My old friend Boulin has disappeared.
Yes, Watson, and now my brother asks me to investigate. The pressure becomes irresistible. Very well, I bow to fate and postpone my retirement for a few hours.
Good man, Holmes. You know you'll never really retire.
Let me see. As Mycroft says, there's an obvious pattern in this case. Our first step, of course, will be to interview all the doctors who treat patients without charge.
Why?
Well, surely that's obvious.
Well, it isn't at all obvious to me. I don't know why you always leave me in the dark.
Well, what makes you laugh?
Being left in the dark, it's just like the old times, isn't it, Holmes? Come on, old fellow, let's go. The game's afoot. Dr. MacDonald, this is Mr. Sherlock Holmes.
Mr. Sherlock Holmes. I'm very glad to meet you.
And are you, Dr. MacDonald?
I swear that I've never been in as many doctors' offices as I have today. But Mr. Holmes is in search of some information. Perhaps, Doctor, you can help him.
I'll do my best. What do you want to know, Mr. Holmes?
Whether you have any charity patients with skin eruptions or growths of any kind. I mean, patients that have not kept their appointments recently, perhaps.
Now, let me see. Why, yes, I do. Old Mrs. Pendle. She has a very bad case of lupus. She was due for a treatment here yesterday, and I've seen nothing of her.
Splendid. Can you give me her address?
Why, certainly. It's in my book here.
Well, I hope this isn't a false trail, Holmes.
We can only explore it and see, dear chap.
Here we are. Mrs. Pendle, 36 Elm Gardens, Clapham.
Mrs. Pendle, 36 Elm Gardens, Clapham. Thank you, Doctor. I'm greatly obliged to you. Getting restless, Watson?
Yes, I am a little. We've been waiting outside Mrs. Pendle's house for over an hour. Why don't we knock on the door and see if she's at home?
Oh, no, my dear chap. We mustn't frighten her. I hope that she's going to lead us to our quarry. You see...
Shh. Front door's opening. A woman's coming out.
Yes, it's Mrs. Pendle, beyond doubt. Look at that bandage around the upper part of her face.
Hello, she's turning down the street. We're going to follow her, I suppose.
Naturally, but let's give her a start, shall we? We don't want her to spot us.
Well, while we're waiting, perhaps you'll clear up 1 or 2 points for me. I'm still very much in the dark.
With pleasure, old chap. What puzzles you?
Well, one of the things that
Come on. What? We've given her enough of a start. Let's follow her.
Oh, very well. But look here, Holmes. You asked me what I didn't understand. Two things puzzle me. What did Mycroft mean by the pattern of the case? Why are we following a poor sick old lady through the London streets?
I'll answer the first question, and I think the answer to the second will be self-apparent. The pattern of the case is clear. Professor Boulin and his 3 assistants had vanished together with the radium, but their disappearances were not simultaneous. Had they been so, it would have been a transparent case of theft. But with the disappearances gradual rather than simultaneous, the emphasis has been subtly shifted.
Yes, I can see that, Holmes, but what do you suppose is at the back of the whole business? It can't be a simple case of theft. Radium is enormously valuable, but it'd be hard stuff to sell again.
Not to an unscrupulous criminal with a knowledge of medicine, Watson. My own theory, and I admit at the moment that it's purely a theory, is that Professor Boulin was worried because he was so hampered in his research. You'll remember that he stressed his great faith in the medical values of the new element, radium.
Yes, he did.
It's more than possible that he places the rights of science above the rights of property, that he's determined that he and his group will carry on their invaluable research unhampered by the conservative restraints of the university.
I see what you mean, Holmes, but how does Mrs. Pendle, the poor woman that we're following, enter the picture?
Because one of the chief lines of radium research on the continent so far has been with her sort of trouble. Professor Boulin's obvious move, if my theory is correct, would be to contact poverty-stricken patients, promise them relief, induce them to abandon their regular treatments, and submit to him.
By Jove, yes, Holmes, that seems perfectly logical, and yet I can't believe that Boulin would...
Mrs. Pendleton has reached her destination. She's turned down a driveway.
Yes, she's walking up to what looks like a deserted warehouse.
Hurry, old chap. Don't let her out of our sight.
She's opened the door without knocking. She's gone in.
We'll wait here for a moment or two, then we'll follow her. I have a feeling that your old friend, Professor Boulin, is not far away, Watson.
Yes, you're probably right. But I hope we can do something to protect him from the consequences of what he's done. It might easily mean the finish of a brilliant career.
I'll do everything in my power, but you know as well as I do...
Shh, look. Mrs. Pendle's coming out again.
Yes, and she's in trouble. Come on. Mrs. Pendle, what's wrong?
I don't know how you know my name or who you be, but you ask me what's wrong. They tell me to come here to this address, and I find a doctor who'd help my face. I comes here, and what do I find?
What did you find, madam?
A corpse, sir. That's what I find. A dead man lying there in a great pool of his own blood.
You'll hear the rest of Dr. Watson's story in just a second. So I'm just going to remind you that there's one wine which everyone likes and which is good on any occasion. Petri California Sherry. You want a swell wine to serve before dinner? The perfect answer is Petri Sherry. If you want a wine that's delicious after dinner, or later in the evening when you're just talking things over with your friends, again you want Petri Sherry. And if you want a wonderful wine to serve at cocktail time, naturally you want Petri Sherry. Sherry is a wine that's good at any time. And Petri, well, Petri is the wine that's good all the time. Well, Dr. Watson, so following the tracks of old Mrs. Pendle led you to a corpse, huh?
Yes, Mr. Bartell. Of course, Sherlock Holmes and I went at once into the broken-down warehouse to examine the scene of the tragedy. Slumped over a desk in a dark and shabby room, a flickering candle giving a macabre lighting to the scene, was the body of a man. I think I knew its identity even before Holmes turned to me and said...
It's Professor Boulin. All right, Watson.
Poor devil. Murdered, of course.
Yes, but examine him for yourself, will you?
Yes. Yes, there's no doubt about it. This wound couldn't have been self-inflicted. The right auricle of the heart has been pierced.
How long ago would you estimate death took place?
Not more than a couple of hours ago, I should say.
Not hard to reconstruct the killing. The murderer came up from behind Boulin as he sat here, crooked an arm around his throat. Yes. See the finger marks on the right-hand side of the neck? Here? Then stabbed him in the chest.
And then withdrew the weapon and disappeared.
Leaving no traces, confound it. A dusty room is an ideal place for recording footprints, but there are half a dozen different prints here, including Mrs. Pendle's. Hello. Here's the print of a smaller woman's shoe.
Well, it must be that of Gladys Hughes, his assistant.
Undoubtedly, but that really proves nothing except that she was here with him. A fact that we were convinced of anyway. Question is, Come on. Let's go outside and talk to Mrs. Pendle again.
Poor old Boulin. What a shocking way to die.
And what a great loss to science.
I suppose the murderer must have stolen the radium. We found no trace of it in there.
Undoubtedly, the possession of the radium was the motive for the murder. Mrs. Pendle.
The poor man is dead, ain't he, sir?
I'm afraid so, madam.
I knew it. I never should have come here. I never should have left Dr. MacDonald.
Mrs. Pendle, let me ask you a question.
I can't be answering no questions, sir. I don't know nothing about how the poor soul got himself murdered. What would a poor woman like me know about such things?
No, my good woman. My friend isn't suggesting at all that you know anything about the murder.
Then what do you want to know, sir?
Who told you to come to this address today, Mrs. Pendle?
A young lady. Nice young lady she was, too. She met me coming out of Dr. MacDonald's yesterday and told me that if I come here today, I'd find a doctor who could cure me.
Yeah, that was obviously Miss Hughes. Holmes, I believe that your theory was right.
Come on, Mrs. Pendle. We'll escort you to the nearest police station where you can report the murder.
Yes, sir.
And then, Watson, we must keep on the track of the radium. That, perhaps, is more important than any life.
Well, how are we going to do that? We haven't a clue to go on.
Remember that Professor Boulin's 3 assistants are still missing. We must go to the homes of each of them and see what can be found out. Mr. Hughes, you must realize by now that your sister's disappearance is part of something vastly more significant than you think. I must ask you in the
My
first...
sister didn't disappear, Mr.
What do you mean, sir? You came to us and said that you had.
Oh, it was all a mistake, gentlemen. She came back today. She had just been down to the seaside for a short rest, and she'd forgotten to let me know. I'm sorry to have bothered you.
May I see your sister at once, please?
I'm sorry, Mr. Holmes, but she's out just now. I don't know where she's gone or what time she'll be back.
Mrs. Barker, I've come to you about your son's disappearance. I'm afraid that...
But my son didn't disappear, Mr. Holmes. It was all a misunderstanding. He came home today.
Then may we speak to him, please, Mrs. Barker?
Oh, I'm afraid that's impossible. You see, he just...
Mrs. Taylor, I want to talk to you about your husband's disappearance.
Oh, that. He came home this afternoon, Mr. Holmes. At first I was so suspicious, but when he explained, well, I'm sure you know how it is in the first few months of marriage, those little tips.
Confound it, Watson. We're no nearer the solution.
And meanwhile, here we are back in Baker Street to find that the moving van has taken all your things off to Sussex. Perhaps you should give up the case, Holmes, and follow them.
Close my career on a note of failure? No, my dear fellow. I shall not leave London until this problem is solved.
Oh, that case, I'll sit down. Looks to me as if it may prove a lengthy wait.
I've rarely felt more frustrated, Watson. All 3 vanished technicians home safely with plausible stories, or at least plausible alibis. And poor Boulin murdered, and the radium stolen.
Well, I must say it makes no sense to me.
Well, it must make sense. The pattern was well enough to find in the beginning. It's just a question of finding the right key. In a way, it's clear enough what's happened. One of the 3 assistants, placing the financial value of radium above its value to science, murdered Boulin to obtain the prize. The other 2, fearing that their complicity in the original plot would involve them as accomplices in murder, ran home and established an alibi.
And the murderer did the same thing, for it's obvious one of the 3 must be the killer and the thief.
Yes, the question is, which one of the 3 is the culprit?
If only poor Boulin were alive, he could help us.
My dear chap, if Boulin were alive, there would be no murderer.
Oh, of course it wouldn't.
Now, let's see. Boulin gave us a few bare facts about his 3 assistants. I wonder... But, of course, Watson, I have the answer. The case is solved.
What do you mean, Holmes? How can it be solved? You haven't done enough investigation. If it comes to that, you haven't even seen any of your 3 suspects.
That isn't necessary.
Oh, you know who did it?
Yes, Watson, and so should you.
But we know nothing to set them apart from each other, except that one of them's a girl.
We know more than that, my dear fellow. Think hard.
Well, Boulin told us that Geoffrey Barker was an excellent technician, while the other 2 were somewhat clumsy.
We know even more than that.
Well, I'm just if I know what, Holmes.
I shan't even need to stay in London and follow the case through to its logical conclusion. A telegraph to Mycroft and another to Scotland Yard should take care of it, yes. And I can be in Sussex before the moving van, after all.
You mean you're going now, before the case is solved?
But it is solved, my dear fellow. All that remains to be done is some purely routine work. What's the time?
Look, it's just 3 o'clock.
Splendid. If we hurry, we can catch the 3:45 express from Waterloo.
We?
Yes, I was counting on you spending a few days down there with me, old chap. I hope you can spare the time. I should hate to make so drastic a change without my good old friend Watson at my side.
Oh, of course, I'll be delighted, but...
But what, my dear boy?
The case of the disappearing scientists.
Wait until we get to Sussex, shall we? As soon as I get an answer to my telegrams, I'll explain the whole thing to you. And now let's hurry, shall we? Our train leaves in 40 minutes. More tea, Watson?
Thanks, old boy.
Peaceful down here, isn't it?
Extremely. At the moment, I must confess, I find it rather nerve-wracking.
Oh, why?
Well, you know why, Holmes. I want you to open that telegram and tell me if your solution to the Boulin case was the correct one.
Very well, my dear chap. Let's see. What is it? It's from Mycroft. Listen. Murderer arrested and radium recovered. Well done, Sherlock, though you took longer than I expected. Regards, Mycroft.
Congratulations, Holmes. And now perhaps you'll condescend to tell me how you solved it.
Don't be angry with me, old chap. I only wanted to make sure that my solution was correct. You remember the nature of the fatal wound on Boulin's body?
Of course. He'd been stabbed through the right auricle of the heart.
From behind. Proving that the murderer was clearly right-handed.
Oh, what does that signify? Almost everybody's right-handed.
Oh, no, not in this case. If you recall, Professor Boulin said that Geoffrey Barker was adroit, while his other 2 assistants were gauche. Then he laughed because he said his remark was true both literally and figuratively.
I still don't see what I was talking about.
Oh, come now, Watson, come. Think of the origin of the word adroit. Ardois. Droit is the French word for right.
And gauche is the word for left.
Meaning the 2 gauche assistants were left-handed, and therefore only the adroit, the right-handed Barker, could have inflicted the fatal wound.
I see it now, Holmes. You know, if you'd remembered that mark of Boulin's at the time we found his body, you could have solved the case much sooner.
That's true, old fellow, very true. And when my old friend Watson points out that my memory is failing and my mind sluggish, then I know that my retirement has been postponed for far too long.
Well, so Holmes really went through with his idea of becoming a bee farmer.
Yes, of course. It became one of his favorite hobbies. Do you know anything about the raising of bees?
Oh, nothing at all. The only connection I've ever had with bees was very remote. Once I had the hives.
Once you had the... Oh, no, Mr. Barker.
Oh, yes, Dr. Watson. But seriously, I do know one thing about bees. Even when you know all about them, you're apt to get stung.
That's true enough.
So I'll make my hobby Petri wine. You know, you can't miss when you buy Petri wine, because Petri wine is always good wine. The Petri family has been making fine wine for generations. In fact, they started way back in the 1800s. And they've handed on down from father to son, the knowledge and experience absolutely essential to the making of truly fine wine. And since the making of Petri wine is a family affair, you can be sure that the name Petri means something on a bottle of wine. Those letters Petri are more than a trademark. They're the personal assurance of the Petri family that every drop of Petri wine is good wine. So when you buy wine of any type, you can put your faith in the Petri label, because Petri took time to bring you good wine. Well, Dr. Watson, what new Sherlock Holmes story are you going to tell us next week?
Well, now, let me see. Next week, Mr. Bartell, I'm going to tell you about one of the weirdest adventures that Holmes and I ever had. It concerns a haunted chapel in the wilds of Cornwall, strange organ music that played at midnight, and the headless ghost of a murdered monk.
Tonight's Sherlock Holmes adventure was written by Dennis Green and Anthony Boucher and was suggested by an incident in Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's story, The Reigate Puzzle. Music is by Dean Fossler. Mr. Rathbone appears through the courtesy of Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, and Mr. Bruce through the courtesy of Universal Pictures, where they are now starring in the Sherlock Holmes series. The Petri Wine Company of San Francisco, California, invites you to tune in again next week, same time, same station. Sherlock Holmes comes to you from our Hollywood studios. This is Harry Bartell saying goodnight for the Petri family.
Welcome back. I've talked in the past about how you can drive yourself crazy in trying to put the Sherlock Holmes stories in a chronological order here, at least the ones that are being done over the radio, because they skip all around his career. This week's episode coming towards the end of his private detective life. Last week's episode coming shortly after he met Dr. Watson. But they're pretty consistent in trying to build momentum towards what should be happening in the plot. Generally, if an episode occurs late in Holmes' career, he's going to be commenting about wanting to go into retirement. So they're consistent in their character development. It's just that the episodes occur all around different times in the character's history. Ed comments with a question, can you tell me who wrote the missing bloodstains? Was it Doyle or was it Green and Boucher? If it was not Doyle, was it based on a Doyle story? In answer to the question, this was a Green and Boucher story, Missing Bloodstains. It was not in the canon. And what they did say at the end of every episode is that the Sherlock Holmes adventure was based on a suggestion in a particular story. Even if the episode we're hearing was not based on that particular Sherlock Holmes story. But this one, that episode, and most of the episodes we hear are the creations of Green and Boucher in terms of the actual plot and structure, rather than something from the mind of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, unless we call it out, such as with the retired colorman or the problem at Thor Bridge. Or I should say, problem of Thor Bridge. All right, well, that'll do it for now. Well, before we get into today's episode of yours truly, Johnny Dollar, I do want to ever so briefly let you know about Johnny Dollar Air. Well, in this episode of Johnny Dollar, it happens in Hartford. But you never know when Johnny Dollar's going to have to dash off around the world. But we got some more flexibility. We can plan for our vacations. And if you're planning a vacation or a business trip, remember to try Johnny Dollar Air. Johnny Dollar Air is powered by Priceline, so you're able to choose from the best offers out there on hotels, airline tickets, or rental cars, or name your own price. Also, if you do book a hotel stay before the end of the day on Sunday, you'll receive a $50 hotel bonus cash coupon that can be used on a future name-your-own-price hotel booking. So that's only for the name-your-own price, but that's available through the 31st. Well, now let's get into today's episode of yours truly, Johnny Dollar, The Mickey McQueen Matter.
Now from Hollywood, it's time for Edmund O'Brien as...
Johnny Dollar.
Mickey McQueen, Johnny. How are you?
Oh, Mickey, I tried to phone you a couple of times. I never reached you.
I'm out a lot these days, Johnny.
Hey, I heard about your protection of Sergeant, Mickey. Nice going.
Well, it isn't good. Taking my beat away from me, putting me behind a desk. I've got to talk to a friend about it. Will you be home tonight?
You really sound worried, Mickey. What is it?
Oh, nothing yet, Johnny, but there'll be murder before it's finished. My mind's made up. I want to talk to you about it.
Well, sure, Mickey. I'll be here any time you want to come up.
Edmund O'Brien in another adventure of the man with the action-packed expense account. America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar, to whom it may concern, Hartford Police Headquarters, Hartford, Connecticut. I don't expect you to honor this statement, but since the reports to my regular employers go in on these forms, the following is an accounting of my expenditures during my personal investigation of the Mickey McQueen matter. It's been my privilege to have worked a number of cases with Mickey McQueen here in Hartford, and through the years a friendship developed between us. So when he phoned Tuesday night to say he wanted to talk to me, I was glad to ask him over. But when it got to be 1:30 in the morning and he still hadn't arrived, I wasn't so glad. He arrived at 2.
I'm sorry I'm late, Johnny.
Yeah. Oh, what held you up? I was about to drop off.
I had to think, Johnny.
Ah, you're in uniform, Mickey. What about your beat?
My beat? My beat won't miss me. After 20 years of walking it from dark to dawn, checking its doors and passing the time of night with its people, talking supper.
Yeah. Oh, is it too late for a drink, Mick? I got your brand, some Irish.
Yes, that was good of you. I've been a good policeman, Johnny. I can say that without sounding like I'm stuck on myself, can't I now?
Well, I've never heard anybody say anything else, Mickey.
Well, I've got more friends to my credit than I have arrests, I'll say that. But I've got a quiet beat.
Well, I think there are quieter beats in town. Maybe you're lucky. Here's to it.
All right. But be careful what it is. There's murder being done and planned right this minute, Johnny. Them that can stop it don't have the heart, right or wrong.
What are you talking about, Mickey?
I know what I'm talking about.
Are you feeling all right?
Feeling all right? I'm as healthy as I was yesterday, ain't I now?
I didn't see you yesterday.
If they're taking my job, putting me behind a desk, a degrading end for a man that's been active for 20 years.
After 20 years on your feet, you should take a rest. You've earned one.
The very words of commission, Johnny. But, Johnny,
Yeah, Mickey?
Never mind. The devil take them all. I've used up enough of your time.
Wait a minute. You came over to talk about something more than your new job. What's this stuff about murder being planned and being done?
I shouldn't have said it. I wish you'd forget it.
What's the matter with you? You know me well enough to tell me, and you know me well enough to know I'll keep any confidence you want me to keep.
You're a good friend, Johnny. Maybe that's why I changed my mind about telling you.
And why'd you come over?
Because I thought I was going to talk to you. But I'm not.
All right, it's your business. But you're acting like a kid, Mickey. Now, if you don't have anything to say to me, it's after 2. I may have a job in the morning.
All right, Johnny. I'm sorry I bothered you. I'll say good night.
I didn't sleep very well for the rest of the night. And sort of a half-dozed parts of Mickey's conversation kept coming back to me. And the more sleep I lost over it, the more I wished I'd been less grumpy and more sympathetic. There wasn't a job for me the next day, and right after noon I decided to drop by his apartment and find out his mood when he was off duty. Mickey's apartment occupied the ground floor of a house not far from ours. I could hear a woman crying somewhere inside. I smelled domestic trouble, but I pushed the buzzer anyway.
Are you
Yeah, I'm Johnny Dollar, friend of Mr. McQueen.
Oh, yes. Johnny Dollar. He said to phone you if I ever needed.
Is he home?
In there.
She pointed in the direction of a door smaller than the outside door. The door to either a bathroom or a closet. The clothes were bunched at one end of the rod, and from the other, still in uniform, his own polished leather belt drawn tightly around his neck, hung Mickey McQueen. I walked back into the lace-curtained living room. The girl who had let me in didn't go with the furnishings. She was young, attractive, and her shoulder-length white blonde hair might have been natural. She had stopped crying, and she acted as if she were waiting for me to start something.
Well, what about it? You explain yourself, or do I get 3 guesses? Never mind that look. I only live here.
Ah. Well, I didn't know Mickey had a daughter.
Thanks for the compliment, but I'm his wife.
I didn't know he had a wife, either.
Maybe he was ashamed of me. My name's Thelma.
I'm sorry, Thelma.
You an old friend of Mickey's?
Yeah, but he never told me about you.
Have you seen him lately?
Last night. First he phoned me, then he came by to talk to me.
What did he say?
I'm not sure. He was pretty handy with double talk. Maybe I was supposed to understand it, but I didn't.
What was it about?
About his job, the change he was making, and something about murders being planned and done, and nobody doing anything to stop them.
Then he didn't tell you
What?
that I was leaving him.
He's never mentioned it. Why was he leaving him?
Because it was all wrong. I never should have married him in the first place.
Why did you?
Because he was the kindest, most wonderful man who ever lived. Does that answer your question?
Not quite. Is there more?
Did you know his first wife?
Yeah.
Well, I guess you know he took her death pretty hard. They'd been married 10 years. I met him after she died. He was lonely, and he was pretty wonderful to me. I thought I could help him. It wasn't because of him I was leaving. It was me. But I never thought he'd do this.
I don't think he did.
What do you mean?
I think he was murdered.
But why?
When did you find him?
I came home about a half an hour before you got here.
Did you phone the police?
No, not yet. I didn't know what to do.
Well, where'd you been?
I told you I was leaving him. I've been living in a hotel. Does it matter?
Why'd you come back?
Because some things I'd left. Why are you asking me these things?
When it's murder, there's bound to be a lot of questions.
I don't think it was. Everybody loved him. He didn't have an enemy in the world. Why would anybody want to kill a man like Nicky McQueen?
I didn't have an answer to that, but I started there in the house to try to find one. If it was murder by hanging, I knew it couldn't have been committed without a fight. But a half-hour search didn't uncover any traces of a struggle. I phoned in a report and left Thelma and the apartment. For the rest of the day, I tried to talk myself into leaving the matter in the hands of the police where it belonged, but I couldn't do it. That night, I started making the rounds of Mickey's beat. I talked to a corner magazine vendor who had sold him a dime mystery, a woman in a cigar store who had talked with him, and a cabbie who had borrowed $5 from him. None of them gave me anything helpful. My next stop was the Cedric Hotel, where I looked up the house detective, Ned Martin.
Oh, Dollar, what are you doing in this end of town? Looking for work?
How are you, Martin? Oh, I got a night off. I'm taking a postman's holiday. Did you hear about Mickey?
His promotion? Yeah, he deserved it.
I didn't mean that. He's dead.
No. What happened?
He was found hanging in his own clothes closet.
What the devil? Come on in the office where we can talk. Sit down. Oh, Mickey, I'll miss him.
So will I. Did you see him last night?
Yeah, he dropped in. He always did once or twice a night, just to shoot the breeze, you know. Why'd he do it? Did he leave a note or anything?
I think he was murdered.
What makes you say that?
He came over to see me about 2:30 this morning. There was something on his mind. He wanted to talk, but he wouldn't.
That figures.
What do you mean?
I noticed something about him last night. He was a little low. I asked him what was the matter. He said it was because it was his last night on his beat. He was supposed to check into his new job today, but that didn't sound right to me.
Did you know he had a wife?
Yeah, I heard about it, and then I hounded him till he showed me her picture.
Platinum blonde?
Yeah, looked like it. And young. I didn't want to embarrass him by asking, but I wondered about her. What makes you think it was murder, Dollar?
Well, do you think Mickey was the type to kill himself?
No, but how can you tell?
I guess you can't. All you can do is try to find out. Well, if you don't have anything more, I'll be on my way.
Wait a minute. I guess it was a dirty trick, and I wish I hadn't done it, but I snooped that marriage. I found out who she was. Her name was Thelma Weaver. She did a couple of years in Joliet.
Where'd you get that?
Well, things like that don't stay hidden. I'd drop it if I were you. I really would.
What are you holding out on me?
It's for your own good, Johnny.
I'll shake it out of you if I have to. Okay, hero. You know Fred Koo, the Calcutta Club over on Bartlett? I know of him. He's a police informer, isn't he? Part-time. If you won't take my advice and forget it, go talk to him. And don't tell him who sent you. Fred Koo, as the department knows, is half Oriental. The day coroner's joined to Calcutta is Indian because he can get the effect with no more expensive decoration than reed matting and coconut husks. The place was small and was jammed when I got there by a crowd that was largely male. I didn't recognize a face, but from the atmosphere, I got the feeling I could have retired on 10% of the bail bonds they bought in their time. I found Fred Koo leaning against the potted palm.
What do you want?
I want to talk to you about Mickey McQueen. You have an office?
You cops too?
Only a private one. I was a friend of Mickey's.
Oh, sure. Roy.
Yes?
I'm in my office for a little while. If there's any trouble, you buzz me.
What is it?
Come on, this way.
You got quite a crowd tonight, friend.
Oh, sure. Sometimes I get a lot of out-of-town trade.
Mm-hmm. Did you see Mickey last night?
No, I didn't. I get along fine with Mickey. He won't take any payoff, but he doesn't push me around. How is he?
You know his wife?
His wife? I didn't even know he was married.
Her name was Thelma Weaver before Mickey married her. She did some time in Joliet.
Oh? Why'd you bother me with this? I got work to do.
You knew Mickey was dead.
No, I did not know that.
I don't see how it would be enough, but it struck me that if somebody knew he was married to an ex-con, they might try to use the information.
I suppose you're right. Yeah?
Roy? Fred? I think you'd better come out.
Important?
Yes, I think so.
Be right out. Pardon me, Dollar. A little trouble outside. You wait here. I'll come right back.
I waited. And while I did, I took a quick look around the office for another way out in case I might need it. There wasn't any unless the steel door in one of the walls was it. But before I could try it, the other door opened. I wasn't expecting Fred Koo to return so quickly, and neither was I expecting who did come in.
I didn't expect to find you here, Mr. Dollar.
Likewise, Mrs. McQueen.
I was looking for Mr. Koo.
What for?
I thought I might help. Mickey kept this notebook, you see, where he wrote down all the places he stopped when he made his rounds. This place was one of them. I thought if I could talk to this Mr. Koo.
Do you know Fred Koo?
No.
Do you know anybody named Weaver? Thelma Weaver?
All right, mister, that's enough. Reach.
Don't be crazy. What good would that do?
Stay where you are and don't try anything. I really mean it.
She looked like she really meant it. It was a small revolver, Colt 25. I didn't know whether she'd come in meaning to use it on Fred Koo or me, but it didn't make much difference. At the moment, she had it pointed at my midsection.
And now back to our star, Edmund O'Brien, in the second act of Yours Truly, Johnny Dollar.
I couldn't figure. She held her little revolver as if she was used to the feel of it, but there had been something actressy about the way she said reach. I couldn't figure her, but I decided not to take a chance. I grabbed up the inkwell from the desk and threw not it, but the contents at her.
Hey, what's the...
Okay. Drop it.
No.
Drop it. Drop it. Now sit down.
All right, what do you want?
Depends on what you want.
I told you. I want to find out who killed Mickey.
At the apartment earlier today, you didn't think anybody had. What about it?
All right, John. How much do you know?
That your name was Thelma Weaver, that you spent 2 years in Joliet.
That's right. After 2 years in that place, I didn't want to go back to that life and start all over again. I did the bunch in Chicago to slip and came here. That's how I met Mickey. He arrested me. Vagrant. What a laugh. He showed up in court the next morning and got me released from his custody. I really felt for the first time like I could start life over again. I know it sounds corny.
But good. You make it sound real good.
You don't believe me, do you?
Sure. I believe you as far as you've gone. I even believe the part about starting a new life. You saw that Mickey had a heart as big as the city, and you didn't lose any time moving into it. That was smart. It was about the safest hiding place you could have found. For you, but not for Mickey.
How did I know about Fred Koo or the kind of man he is? Somebody spotted me and told me. I didn't waste any time getting in touch with Chicago.
Those men out there, they all from Chicago?
Most of them. Just about the tall one. Talks with an English accent.
Yeah, I remember. Roy.
That's him. He came first. He checked the possibilities on Mickey's beat. He found out about Mickey's being moved over to a new job.
Where was he being moved?
Some desk job.
Where?
At the police arsenal.
The arsenal. How'd he find that out?
I told him. I had to. He made me tell him.
What are Roy's plans, do you know?
Yes. Marquardt building. The one that has all the wholesale jewelry.
Oh, that's no good. Mickey was supposed to help him with a job of that size, or they'd revealed that he was married to an ex-con. That's not enough. They must have more than that.
I might as well tell you. Can't hurt me now any more than I've been hurt. His name's Roy Weaver. I'm married to him. He threatened to bring bigamy charges unless Mickey helped him.
That'd do it. With your record, bigamy would be a long stretch.
5 years. Mickey would do almost anything rather than cause me that.
Who killed him?
Roy did. I wasn't there, I swear I wasn't. But they met him after he got through work at 5:30 this morning.
Why did they kill him?
Mickey was all ready for his new job. He had the keys to the arsenal.
Here's your gun. If you're on the level, you may need this, and the caliber's too small to do me any good.
What are you going to do?
I'm going to the police.
Why not use the phone?
It'll be tapped. That bunch would be in here before I got started.
I wouldn't try it if I were you.
Where are you going, Donna?
I'm going home. I was waiting for Fred Koo, but I guess he decided not to bother.
Fred had to leave. Did Mrs. Weaver entertain you with her sordid story?
Yeah, it was very pleasant.
She's a charming girl. And you were going home to think about it.
Yeah, if you don't mind. Get out of my way.
I'm afraid I do mind. I couldn't chance having Fred interrupt the arsenal, could I? Carl?
Yeah? Get out of my way.
Hey, where'd you go? Come on,
get out of here.
That's fine, Carl. Now, shall we go back to the office and wait? Bring him along, Carl. It's a pity you became involved in this, Dollar. I'd hoped there wouldn't have to be any more violence.
You did stop him.
Yes. Thanks for the buzz, darling.
It was a pleasure. Look what the skunk did to my dress. Did Fred get started all right?
He's well on his way. She'll be back within the hour.
Hey, Mr. Weaver, what do we do with this guy?
Keep him out of the way. Put him in there. See that he stays quiet.
Sure. Hey, you. Turn around.
At least I found out what was behind the steel door I'd noticed earlier in the evening. When my eyes opened and I got accustomed to the light from a single dust-covered bulb, I realized that I was in a sort of wine cellar. There were some bottles, but most of the storage space was taken up by a large and varied assortment of burglar tools. And there were a few weapons, too, but I knew that they were nothing compared to what Fred would bring back if the raid on the arsenal was successful. I glanced at my watch at 11:15, and right after that, I heard the heavy latch on the door being turned. I got back into my position on the floor, closed my eyes, and listened.
Don't forget the bars, Carl. We'll need them for the inside doors.
Yeah, I got you. Hey, Benson, you take these, and I'll bring the rest. Hey, you want the guns in there, Mr. Weaver?
We won't need them. You Crocker?
Yeah.
Listen closely now. We're behind schedule. Both cars are in back. In the Buick, you'll find the things from the arsenal.
Yeah.
I want you to move half of them over into the Cadillac. What about the grenade, Fred? They're in a case marked CN-DM. Irritant gas. M6. You heard that?
I got it.
Open the case and put half in the Buick. The most important is the cordite powder for the vaults. There are 2 boxes. Put one in the trunk of each car.
Right.
And be careful. It's touchy stuff.
I know. I've handled it before.
All right. Get along then. Well, hurry.
It won't take long.
Now, Fred, you'll be in charge of one car. I'll be in the other.
That's all right.
We're agreed that we'll meet at the north entrance at midnight. Both to approach the building from the east on Lincoln.
Oh, that's the best.
We'll have dropped 2 men to guard the south entrance. 2 of my men will subdue the guard at the north.
They better. They'll spring the alarm in big hurry.
You can trust me. They'll use pumps. Thelma,
Yes, sir.
where are you going?
Don't be so snoopy. I'm going to powder my nose.
You're coming with us.
Sure, if you want me to.
I don't need you, but I don't think I should feel safe without you with me. Don't be long.
I'll be right back.
I think everything's ready for men here, Mr. Weaver.
Good. Go to the cars then, Carl.
What about the Seamus here?
Oh, we'll lock him up again. We'll decide what to do when we come back.
Well, I guess he can't cause no harm in there.
I tried to force the door using one of the bars they'd left behind, but no luck. Then I started poking the cement walls. I knew better than to expect to find any other exit. But with the biggest burglary in the history of Hartford underway, I had to do something. I kept a check on the time, and it was 20 minutes before they were due to arrive at the Marquardt building, when a sound stopped me. The steel door was being opened. I moved behind it, still holding the bar.
Isn't it Martin? Are you in there?
Yeah, Martin, I'm here. How'd you know I was here?
Some dame from the hotel. She told me you were here. What happened?
Why should she call you?
Well, how should I know? I don't even know who it was. She just said she knew you came to the hotel and that you were locked up in here. I mentioned the Calcutta to you. So I came over to see what it was all about. What's the matter? Don't you believe me?
I don't know what to believe. You said you were holding something out on me when I talked to you.
I was. I knew Fred Crew was selling information about Mickey's wife to some guns from Chicago. I knew it could have led to trouble.
Well, why didn't you tell me? You said it was for my own good.
I thought it was, and mine, too. I didn't want you to know so much you'd have to tell where you learned it. To prove how smart you were. I don't like this kind of stuff.
You got a car?
Yes, but it stays right where it's parking here. You tell me what's going on.
The Chicago bunch raided the police arsenal. They're armed with everything from cordite to Tommy guns. They're going into the Marquardt building in less than 20 minutes.
What's that?
Wholesale jewelers. Will you take me out there?
Take you part way if you're crazy enough to want to go.
That's good enough. Let's get back into the office.
Who'd you want, the police?
Yeah.
We could stop on the way.
It'll take us 15 minutes to get to the Marquardt building. If we run into a patrol car on the way, we'll stop it. If we don't, you can drop me and then phone in. Where's your car? At the speed we traveled, we should have at least picked up a traffic cop, but we didn't. Martin wouldn't take me any further than the corner of Atlantic and Milton. And we reached there at 12 minutes after 12. That gave me 2 minutes to get to the Marquardt building. I didn't make it before they arrived, but it didn't make any difference. Both cars had pulled up and were unloading men. From a doorway about 50 yards down, I spotted Fred Koo and Roy Weaver. Then I saw Thelma. She got out of the Buick and started toward me.
Thelma, where you going?
Weaver shouted at her, but she didn't answer. Instead, she stopped, and I saw the little gun glitter in her hand as she turned back to them. Then I saw what she was aiming at. The trunk of the Buick, where the cordite powder was.
I'm a bullet!
The car went up in a blast of powder and gasoline, and she moved back towards the other. Someone who had survived the first explosion opened fire on her. I saw her fall, but after she was down, she raised herself, and her last shot connected with the cordite in the second car. By the time I got to her, both cars were flaming wrecks. I picked her up and ran. You're all right now, Thelma?
Who is it? Johnny?
Yeah.
Where are we?
They're still near the Marquardt building. We're going to get you to a hospital.
I killed him.
As far as I know, yeah.
Oh, I did a terrible thing, didn't I, Johnny?
Yeah, pretty good.
I'm not sorry. You wanted to stop them, but I couldn't let you. I wanted to get them all at once for what they did to Mickey.
Don't talk now.
Getting just Roy wouldn't have been enough. Would have been easy, but not enough. They were all in it. It was the only way. The cordite.
Sure.
Mickey wouldn't have liked me doing that, would he? He was so honest. He always had to do everything so legal.
He wouldn't have liked it, maybe, but he might have been proud of it. I am.
Are you, Johnny? Do you think she would have been? You really do?
Yeah, I do. I really do.
He was the best man that ever lived. Too bad I wasn't. Oh. Anyway, I took care of the bigamy. They can't send me back to Joliet.
And that was it. Thelma Weaver McQueen, as the department knows, was DOA at Emergency Hospital. None of the mob got out alive except Roy Weaver, who lived long enough to sign a confession of Nicky McQueen's murder. I want you to know that I may have lost a good friend, but you have lost a better policeman. I hope to see those early news accounts that called him a suicide corrected. Expense account total, $0, 0 cents. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, stars Edmund O'Brien in the title role and is written by Gil Dowd with music composed and conducted by Leith Stevens. Edmund O'Brien can currently be seen starring in the Columbia Pictures production 711 Ocean Drive. Featured in tonight's cast were Bill Conrad, Virginia Gregg, Ben Wright, Jim Nusser, and Dan O'Herlihy. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, was produced and directed in Hollywood by Jaime Del Valle. Join us next week at this time when from Hollywood, Edmund O'Brien returns in another adventure of...
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Welcome back. The writers are definitely dedicated to their form of the way a story should go. And you know that when they include expense accounts, have Johnny write an expense account when he wouldn't get one. But what it does kind of establish a picture of Johnny as a methodical person who's been doing his insurance investigation for a long time. And the way he makes sense of the world when dealing with a life-threatening, dangerous situation is to get out an expense account. And again, this was a much more personal, direct show than you'll see from a lot of private detectives that basically deal almost exclusively in strangers. This was definitely up close and personal. So another solid acting performance by Edmund O'Brien makes up a little bit for the lack of mystery. Ben emails in with a question, when will the Bob Bailey episodes of Johnny Dollar start? Thanks from Ben Miller. Thanks for the question, Ben. There's a lot of Johnny Dollar to go. We are on the episode 63, and there were 232 episodes of Johnny Dollar before we got to Bob Bailey. Many of these are missing, but I think we've got a good another 2.5 years, maybe a little plus, but less than 3 years till we get to those. That's one of the reasons why I'm so glad we're bringing Let George Do It on Wednesday, so you can enjoy Bob Bailey while waiting for his Johnny Dollar shows. Got a couple comments regarding the episode we ran a couple weeks ago, the Henry J. Unger matter. Jody comments, I agree that the beginning was a little off. Why would he be hired to protect himself? The middle was so great that I was able to suspend my disbelief and enjoy the episode until the end. Johnny acting as a defense lawyer on the stand was very strange, especially when he made up the elevator man. While my only qualification is being an avid Law and Order fan, I can't believe he wouldn't have been charged with perjury for lying on the stand. It was still a fun episode, though, just very different from regular Johnny Dollar. I agree. I didn't think about that, about the insurance company hiring him to protect himself. But it might there might be a rationale for that part of the story anyway, in the fact that you're an insurance company, you don't want investigators to be afraid to go after somebody who's tough, for fear that the insurance company that they're working for is just going to leave them hanging out to dry if they come after them. You can't, dead insurance investigators, bad for the insurance company bottom line, and not standing by the investigator also could be bad. So I could see an argument for that. And as for perjury, I think they might have a case. The truth of the matter, law, I've followed it a little bit. My qualifications aren't all that more than anybody else's, other than I got some paralegal training once. But there are a lot of things that could be prosecuted, which, because of prosecutorial discretion, just isn't. And I think in the case of what happened in the end of Henry J. Unger, that this probably wouldn't have been prosecuted. There's a prosecutor out there, can, I guess, agree or disagree. Phil, though, had one of the best remarks I ever got. I thought you'd slipped in a Pat Novak episode. Our hero gets knocked out, wakes up next to a dead body and a recently fired gun, and is wanted by the police for murder. All you need is Raymond Burr. Oh, wait, he's there, too. Oh, thanks, Phil. Thanks so much for the comments. They're much appreciated. If you have a comment on the show, send it to box13@greatdetectives.net, particularly if you've got some favorite old-time radio music. We'd love to be able to find out about it if you enjoy some of the old music. Remember to cast your vote for the show on Podcast Alley, podcastalley.greatdetectives.net, and follow us over on Twitter, please, @Radio Detectives. From Boise, Idaho, this is your host, Adam Graham, signing off.